we value freedom. Like, I don't think we would ever accept being controlled by another country. And I think that the majority of us would rather die before that happened.
Right.
I think
or we just don't know that it's happening.
Oh, here you go again. Okay, Theo, here you go. Theo, what country are you talking about? Theo. Candace, see what you started, Candace. Theo, what are you talking about right now, Theo?
Look, I'm Whoopi Goldberg. We're going to go to commercial break right now, guys.
This is dangerous.
TOPLOBSTA Productions.
I'm not condemning these people. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm saying that they're dumb, okay? You haven't figured out that you're being lied to by this machine yet. You're a fucking idiot, and I can't help you anymore.
Aliens, dollar collapse, demolishing of the deep state. Just because they've given you, as a conspiracy theorist, everything you've wanted, don't go on a victory tour just yet. And strengthen your relationship with God.
I know that we're almost in World War III. I just don't care that he retarded. And everything above that is a disrespect to God.
I'm somebody that thought I could fix this, and I'm starting to think about having to eat my neighbors.
Candace, do you see what you've done? Do you see what you've done? Now you've got Theo Von and all these other people talking like this. This is you guys keep saying it. The floodgates are opening. Well,
I said it first. Listen, I don't want to be the guy that's like, I said it first, but I fucking did say it first. And everybody called me stupid. Robbie the Fire called me stupid. You called me. No, maybe you didn't. I like to attribute things that CLINT maybe did or didn't do, but I imagine that he did. You called me stupid in my head, and I was right. This is happening. We're going full blown into, and I don't really know what to think about it. It's a mainstream thing now. Also, I'd like to shout out Louis J. Gomez, who I had a private conversation with, that said this is going. He thought it was going in the other direction. I said, no, you are completely wrong. We are headed full blown into this. He even mentioned Theo Von. He said people like Theo Von won't be cool with this, and I'm like, well, fucking this guy's leading the charge. Theo Vonstein.
He definitely got that one wrong. Theo is leading the charge. He does it in this like really surreptitious way. He's like. He never says it outright, or he rarely does, but then he's just, every week you get another little drop from Theo that he's like noticing some real shit right now. I think it's really interesting. And for the record, yes, again, you are misattributing everything that I had to say about you. I did not call you stupid. I just simply said that there is no authoritarian right-wing political power as of yet. Yeah, so your prognostication, I think, is more in the distant future if it is to come to pass. I don't think you're gonna see people being rounded up under the Trump administration. Quite the contrary.
It's a weird one, right? Because I feel like we were gonna see people being rounded up, but I thought that it would be the left, but it seems more and more like it'll be the dissident right, the people who are pointing out this J stuff. But I don't know, maybe there's gonna be like a turnaround from this administration, because you have the administration that is they're, instead of giving us the Epstein files, they're passing anti-Semitism laws. Instead of giving us the JFK files, they're giving us the JFK files without anything about Israel in them, which is interesting. Or
no.
That's they're redacting, the case,
right?
No, it's not true. There is a lot of really interesting information in the JFK files that had to do with Israel, particularly Angleton and his relationship. I don't know if we intended to get into the JFK files this quickly, but the document demonstrated that Angleton, as I think he was like second in command at the CIA, had a off the books relationship with both the leadership in Israel as well as the FBI domestically, and he testified before the Warren Commission, and like we still don't have that testimony, so that's like one of the main things that we want to have disclosed. But I think what it shows is that the CIA and Mossad are just intimately intertwined in a way that I think very few Americans understood.
Well, I was reading somewhere that have understood that for a while, right? We've been saying that, especially when it came to the whole Epstein thing. And it's like we've been waiting around for these files to be released just to kind of confirm shit that we already suspected years ago.
Level up.
But I've been saying that we're going to move towards this big sort of climactic moment when it comes to the West and our sentiment with not only but with Israel. And right now we have that perfect cultural storm, given that little conversation that we just saw there with Andrew and Theo Vaughn. And then now we have some real tangible precedent with the JFK files. I just am worried now that if the state of Israel, if they do something wrong, let's say geopolitically wrong, in a real disastrous sort of way, whether it's with Iran or something like that, we are primed to turn in a huge way. I mean, like a unanimous pivot as an entire country in that direction, just given that like cultural underlay, that conversation that's happening now. And then I guess the JFK files.
Well,
Josie's right. Josie's right, by the way, that most of the disclosures that we got yesterday are old. Like they happened in the 90s, they happened under the Clinton administration. In fact, most of the documents say when it was initially unredacted or disclosed to the public. So we didn't get a ton new, but I think what was meaningful about it is like it's just this big tranche of documents that comes out that includes all of disclosures from a bunch of different angles, and we have AI for the first time that allows for us to find shit a lot faster. And then we also have social media, which allows for it to circulate a lot faster. So despite the fact that the drop was kind of lackluster, like it didn't include a tremendous amount of new information, the era within or in which it was dropped, it created a lot of revelations.
They were, so again, I was reading somewhere that the only redacted parts or parts that were not included were parts that involved Israel. I know that I saw Israel's name a bunch of times in these documents. I don't know how true that is. Maybe it's just people that really hate, just keep bringing this up. Could be misinformation. I'm not really sure. But what I think is a more revelatory here, or at least something we should talk about, is you have the culture moving full force into this noticing, because it's very funny. It has like this funny aspect to it, whereas if you're a comedian, you kind of have to pay attention to it. If you're making music, apparently like Kanye West, you kind of have to like point at it, because it's one of those turning moments. But the Trump administration is behaving like the old guard, where not the old guard necessarily, but they're behaving in an antiquated way, where Trump seemed like this throughout his entire campaign, his most recent campaign, that he was kind of understanding the culture. He's going on popular podcasts. He's doing these cultural things, telling us what we want to hear, free raw shit like that. But he's missing this part. And I just have is he going to do an about face on Israel?
You know what it feels like to me, Top? It feels like Rogan's show. You know how we look at Rogan and it's like he presents interesting ideas that he acts as though he's skeptical of, and then he rolls out the red carpet for his guest to then present it in a compelling way. And a lot of people have suspected for some time that that's kind of his MO. And you could say that that's like a nefarious design implementation in his show, or you could just say like, look, these are big ideas. Maybe they're better received from an authority that he's talking to rather than just his own opinions. So what he does is he plays this game where he sits back and he goes, I don't know, man. Is that true? And then he lets the guest, expand on why it is true. I kind of feel like Donald Trump, he can't not know. But maybe what he's doing is he's playing this game where it's like they're going to overplay their hand at some point, and he won't have to be the one who addresses it. And that just goes back to, what I'm
You can't kill us all, that kind of thing.
Something like that, where it's like, if Donald Trump makes some sort of accusation or declaration of, noticing Israel's influence in American politics, yada, yada, well, then he's already a charged character, and that almost would spoil that revelation, because it then comes through a filter of a polarizing character who some people simply won't accept that information because they don't like him. So you have to kind of let it come out in a different way, and is kind of what I expect is going to happen. I don't think he's unaware.
Well, there's I have no real judgment on that. He does a ton of things for Israel. In fact, he just greenlit their destruction of Gaza, as if there's anything left. So it's hard to get a read on that. I'm not really sure, but I do think that like we're entering a very perilous time in that I think Israel or the leadership in Israel is recognizing that like the clock is ticking on public support globally. Like they've already lost so much of it. Can they maintain their stranglehold on power of the American military-industrial complex? Is this their last shot? they've already accomplished so much. Are they going to try and push for the final domino, which is Iran? What catalyst would be necessary to get Trump, who ran on non-interventionism and ending wars, to actually engage in a war with Iran, which would be catastrophic and destroy his legacy? But they need to get it done because all of the dominoes have fallen. They've taken out Lebanon. They've taken out Hezbollah in Lebanon. They've taken out the Houthis in Yemen, or at least they're damaging them right now. They've taken out the Hamas in Gaza. They've taken out Assad in Syria. They've weakened Putin in Russia. I mean, this is the entire Iranian alliance. People really need to grasp that. They have weakened the entire Iranian alliance. What if you're the leadership of Israel right now? What are you saying? We need to get America in on this, and we need to fucking end this once and for all. We need to get Iran done. It's been the last of the 7 nations under the Wes Clark 7 for
that's the guy
20
right?
years now. So
I was trying to think of the name of that general. It's Wesley Clark, right? That said, We've got 7. Wow, so we're at the final phase, but isn't it very much like COVID, where they get you to this line and then they're like push, but you can only push so hard and so fast. You can only Operation Warp Speed yourself until the population turns on you, and then they have to pull back.
At a certain level of desperation, though, you have to take a leap, and that's my concern, is that they may be there. I mean, it's not just the fact that they've weakened their entire alliance and like strike while the iron is hot, but also the U.S. and the financial system is kind of on the tipping point of global debt issues, and I think it'd be very unlikely that we don't have a severe recession in Trump's second term. So, do you want to wait for that, or do you want to strike now? Well, Trump is relatively popular. His base is very anti-war, but they would actually go along with whatever Trump said to a large extent. Probably 80% of his supporters would still be like, yeah, fuck Iran. I hate the Muslims. I've been being told about that since '03 and George W. And there's a lot of reasons to push, even if it's, they have already kind of overstretched themselves.
We're in such a weird place because I feel like every episode that we do between this show and Nephilim Death Squad, Top and I constantly echo the sentiment. We're tired of talking about and I think that was like Top's detriment, being ahead of the curve. You know what I mean? It's like you had all that time to talk about it, and then when you put it to bed,
I got exhausted by this topic by Top like a year and a half ago.
And here we are, though. Now it's like every time we do a show, we're doing it once a week. Thursday rolls around, I go, what are we going to talk about today? And we've got like 5 different things to talk about. Every single one of them talks about everything points back to the.
I didn't do it.
No, exactly. We didn't do it. It's not, it's not our fault. It just so happens that the larger cultural conversation is being, it's locked in a stranglehold.
I mean, they're bombing like 3 different countries simultaneously. America happens to be bombing one of their arch enemies in the Houthis right now. It's like, I have no choice but to talk about this. This is sorry,
right.
like this is what I cover. So, but I did want to point out there was another really interesting disclosure in the JFK files. It said that these were Cuban revolutionaries, and they said explicitly that like we now have. I don't remember the exact quote, but it was explicit in its nature. They said something to the effect of like, we now have adequate funding. Our backers are, and as soon as they or we take him out, our problems will be solved, or something like that. Just a fascinating disclosure. Then you also have this other guy who claims to have been, I guess, I don't know if he was a participant or if he was just privy, but he was a CIA asset, and he goes to this friend's house and basically confides in them that he knows for a fact that there was a small cabal within the CIA that took out JFK because they had been illegally running a illegal guns operation for basically black ops funding for the organization, and he was gonna blow the whistle and prosecute them all. And they took him out, and then this guy himself a couple weeks or a couple months later by shooting himself behind the left ear despite being right-handed. Just another weird coincidence. And it's like there's just so many. I do want to say, though, what's interesting about the JFK files more than anything to me is that whatever your confirmation bias is, everyone came away with the same conclusion that they had going in. Like,
yes.
If you think it was Israel, it was Israel. If you think it was the Cubans, it was the Cubans. If you think it was the Russians, it was the Russians. If you think it was LBJ, it was LBJ. Like, nobody really shifted their opinion. I think in fairness, I guess I didn't really either, except for the fact that I kind of dismissed the idea that maybe Mossad and Israel was behind it, because I had my prior belief was that it was the CIA, almost certainly, and now I think it was probably the CIA working in tandem with Israel and probably with the mob.
Which is the same exact thing that people suspect about the Epstein situation. So it's a relationship that still continues and plagues us to this day. I haven't looked into it. How many pages was it? I heard it was 80,000. Is that real? 80,000 pages?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't really look into it. One, because of the overwhelming amount of information. I figured just let it settle and give it some time. But two, I don't really make a habit of looking to government sources for information on things that I think that the government is hiding from us, right? And so it is a weird position we find ourselves in. We're all going around and we're having these things confirmed, very much like when phase 1 of the Epstein files came out. We said, look, the flight logs that we suspected were real turned out to be real. But it's like we're just waiting around for them to say, like, you guys were right. And then we're flipping through this thing and assuming that, you know, it's the truth to whatever degree. But you're right about that, Clint. That's what I've seen. As I've been sitting back in the cut and waiting for this thing to develop, I'm seeing, look, it definitively was involving Israel. And then I'm watching go, look, you idiots, see, there's nothing about Israel in here. And I'm going, fuck. What an insane world that we live in, where those two
the
things.
Shane Cashman world, where it's like this post
reality
world where we live in this haunted house where everyone's point of view is correct, but nobody's really right. I kind of it's enjoyable as somebody who enjoys the chaos to watch, but
yeah,
It's not enjoyable to me.
There's been one person that gave me a unique take on the JFK files, and I'm gonna present the video here. We'll fucking check it out really quick.
Okay, let's go.
Our boy Ben Shapiro, the only
Always
one
a
with
good
an
source of
This is
information.
interesting.
original take. So here we go.
Term conspiracy theorizing that's become incredibly popular on the right these days. It was popular on the left, and now it's become increasingly popular on the right. The kind of, let's just ask questions. We'll ask who really? JFK?
Wait, can we pause it real quick?
Nod.
I just want to say how funny it is to watch Ben Shapiro sit here and use the terminology conspiracy theorizing when it comes to the JFK files, because that's literally when the CIA coined the term conspiracy theorist, was to dismiss anybody who thought that it was not the way that the official narrative says.
Is his yarmulke getting bigger, or is his head shrinking?
I think his
I don't know.
eyebrows
I
are
think
getting bigger.
he's gotten more handsome. Still very weaselly,
He
but
has gotten more handsome.
I understand why he is where he is. Like, he's got a good face for it. The eyebrows are a little fucked.
He gets facials. He gets his eyebrows fucking tweezed or whatever.
That's just, to me, that's such an intelligence move, right? To like rehash that terminology, you know, in alignment with the very conspiracy that got it started in the first place. That's so funny.
I got to point this out though, because if you could take this off full screen, because I got to make a broader point.
Very disturbing, yeah.
And I don't want to look at his fucking terrible visage. I think that there's a really interesting paradigm shift that's happening where, so you know how when we were, maybe not for you guys, but like prior to our generation, it was like we had the three major news channels, and you have the newscaster sit there and he wears a suit and he just talks in this very authoritative tone, and he's lying about everything. He's just telling you whatever the CIA said. And then it becomes this 24/7 news cycle where you have all of the commentators. Maybe they dress in business casual, but they're all lying. They're all lying across the board, and then the propaganda portrayal or the staging of it has to evolve once again. Then it evolves into this Daily Wire motif where it's just this single man. But he's talking in a more casual fashion, very very fast paced, very authoritative. Once again, business casual, but it's just a slightly different format. But he's telling you 10% more truth than the old guard, and therefore you feel as if you're being told 100% of the truth. And then that veneer starts to fall apart, because there's certain topics like, I don't know, the JFK assassination, who may have been behind that, that you can't tell the truth about, and then that veneer falls apart, and then you have to evolve into the next iteration. We are the next iteration, Ben Shapiro. You are the fucking old guard, and you're dying. And rightfully so, because you can't tell the truth about this topic, and that's the reality of it. So this is what you're going to see, is that entire motif of just this like very very good lighting. You got your facial, got your fucking eyebrows perfect. You're not cussing, but you're still pretending as if you're somehow on the cutting edge. You're not even close to it. And I think your audience is realizing it, which is exactly why Jeremy Boring had to step down and why the Daily Wire is fucking going bankrupt.
It's
I
interesting
love that,
too,
Clint.
because like technology is increasing, and our accessibility to technology has, it's been pretty easy to get. Like this camera that I got, it puts me pretty much on the same quality level as Ben Shapiro. I just need a little bit better lighting, which will cost me not much money. In all reality, anybody can kind of go out and do this. All in $3,000-$4,000, and you could be perceived. I could get a nation bombed with this level of quality audio and video. So it's like, yeah, you're not really like, you don't have that big of a step above anybody else at this point. Before, it was like webcams and stuff, and he was competing with the actual TV, Fox News, and their production value was crazy. And then we realized when we did Elijah's show, this is a little inside baseball, he was using like an $80,000 broadcasting system that they use at Fox News, and it was fucking garbage. And we're like, hey, Elijah, use the one that we use. And he started using the one we use. It was much better.
It's like, hey, bro, just use the $20 a month version. You can get rid of this $80,000 piece of software.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I really love about it, though? It's like this idea that you're being deceived by these talking heads in yarmulkes and suits, and the guys that might stand a chance at telling you the truth. Ivermectin shirt, long sleeve shirt that you almost certainly slept in, and a sexually ambiguous guy in a Hawaiian shirt. These are the people that you might be able to trust.
That's right. But I mean, I think I'm right, though. I think it's evolving, and I think that the public, not all, but 20, 30, 40% of them are like, they're totally aware of what I'm talking about. And if they haven't thought about it consciously, I think because I laid it out, they'll be like, yep, that's exactly right. Like all of those old iterations of authoritative figures no longer lands with the broad, like not with the broader public. And as a consequence, their entire, propaganda operations are flailing. And I made a post that went very viral about this, but I stand by it in the insinuation that it's very interesting that USAID funding gets frozen and the Daily Wire implodes a month later. I mean, because, a lot of people assume that, well, especially if you listen to Elon Musk or if you listen to Donald Trump about it, USAID is just this propaganda arm for the left. It's just the left, and that's what they're doing. Get the fuck out of here. You think that they're not funding controlled opposition? You think that they don't want to have a guy who speaks very fast and very charismatic way, but he has a total blind spot when it comes to Israel. He has a total blind spot when it comes to supporting foreign aid and endless wars, but he's basically masked himself under this "Make America Great Again, America First" banner, but he doesn't believe that at all. But he's got this, millions of people in his audience and all of them voted for Trump. And, you would think that they would all find that to be reprehensible and totally counter to their principles. But yet he continues to be this dominant force for years and years and years. You think that's an accident? You think that Jordan Peterson, who's, makes his name fighting against wokeness and, standing up. I mean, he's one of the premier experts when it comes to understanding the rise of totalitarianism and humanity's, like pitfalls and how we get into those positions. And yet he acquiesces to the moment of tyranny in his lifetime, and he gets the jab, and he fucking and Shapiro does the same, and the entire Daily Wire crowd does the same. And then they just happen to oust Candace Owens, despite the fact that she's probably the biggest up and comer in their organization. Just because she has one area of disagreement, and that area of disagreement happens to be, I don't want to go to war anymore, and I don't want to fucking send money to Israel. I'm just saying, you think that there's not a chance that USAID was funding that organization? Get the fuck out of here.
That gets me to, and I don't want to jump the gun into this topic, but it is going to be something we're talking about later, and it's the whole Kanye thing. And I just want to say, lightly, and we could move on, that it's a fascinating thing that people are freaking out that Kanye West is talking about the if you're a fan of Kanye West, you're likely a fan of hip hop. We're talking about an industry that glorifies murder, right? Other dudes selling drugs, women, all this shit. You listen to, I was joking around, the Laney edit from Tower Gang that was aimed at Mr. Patriot, I said was Tower Gang's Hit 'Em Up. It was Tupac, right? Hit 'Em Up. And if you just think about that song in particular, right? We're talking like 90s rap. Hit 'Em Up was so aggressive. You're literally talking about murdering another rapper. And of course, this ends in bloodshed. And the industry does not change. In fact, it doubled down, and it gets worse over the next, couple of decades. And these people who listen to that music, who don't really bat an eyelash at that, think that talking about the is going too far. That's fascinating. That, to me, is programming. You've been made to feel that way, and you're not really sure why you feel that way. But you're all up in arms about it. Nobody says a damn thing, though, when Hit 'Em Up comes up on the radio. We just finished celebrating DMX, how many years ago when DMX passed away. And there was, find me a more aggressive rapper than DMX. And when he died, Hot 97 was treating him like he was a saint. And I'm a big fan of DMX music. I'm not saying that you shouldn't listen to it, but I'm saying, how are you going to listen to that and enjoy that and celebrate it and then tell me that a man has gone too far when he mentions the...
It's interesting because I don't know if it's intentional. I had a conversation with some I guess like not really family, but like people that I know, and they were talking about the measles popped up. Then they were talking about RFK and how horrible he is. They're big Democrats. They're Democrats from New York City, and I started telling them about the side effects of these. They're like, well, we should really investigate them because there's a lot more autistic kids running around there than we know. And they're like, I don't know anyone that's autistic. And I was like, your grandson is nonverbal autistic and he's up. It's a wild way to be. But they're staring me right in the face, telling me this. And I was like, my son was nonverbal for a while and he was injured by a... We had to put him on a heavy... And the only reason he's talking to you right now is because of the things that we've done to help him out. But they just can't... It's like they can't put these things together.
It's a real cognitive dissonance. It's
a cognitive dissonance, and I'm like, they're not being paid to be dishonest,
right?
And they're not even necessarily being dishonest. They'd pass a lie detector test. They just can't understand their actions and what has happened as a result of their actions.
That's the important point to recognize, is that these people aren't lying. Like because their reality is that. So for them, it's like a good example is, the people that are lighting Teslas on fire right now. If you want to run that Kimmel clip, or if you want to cue it up.
I didn't see anybody setting one on fire. I did see a fat man digging his and then wipe his hand on a Tesla, though. I did.
Oh, wait a second. Let me just explain this this banner that's been going. So Ben Shapiro basically says the JFK files are too old to care about because they happened in '63. Yeah. And then, our lovely producer Tyler says, so therefore the Holocaust must be too old to care about because
we didn't even finish the Shapiro clip.
Yeah, let's finish it. We're just getting so upset when you put Shapiro on the screen that it kind of like disheveled.
Finish it,
right,
because the entire Chiron only makes sense if you finish that clip.
Okay.
And then you're like, well, do you have any evidence of the thing that you are presupposing? Well, no, I'm not making any accusations. I just know I don't believe the story that I'm being told. I know not to trust the authorities. Like, well, that's fine, but do you have like any evidence?
That is a big yarmulke.
Evidence, not just supposition. I said, well, you're part of it, aren't you?
It's almost a
you're part of it. The reason that you're so defensive about all this is, I don't care JFK. I mean, I do because it's really interesting, but I noticed that the calendar says 2025 and he was in 1963. And so my opinion about who JFK has about as much relevance as who William McKinley, or James Garfield, which is to say not an enormous amount.
Very interesting. This is very.
You think that's an accident? I mean,
No.
And particularly given that like his entire worldview is formulated by a tragedy that happened 80 years ago, but this tragedy for America 70 years ago or 63 years ago, whatever it is, his opinion doesn't matter on that one. I mean, it's just at some point that creates such cognitive dissonance. Like you have to, as a fan of his, assuming that he has fans still, which is hard to believe, you have to recognize that logic is dog shit. Like
it's hard to argue with, though. Like if you're in a formal debate with him, there's really no way to argue because he'll just continue to drag you into the woods left and right. The only way to do it is just be like, all right, we're gonna stop the bullshit right now because I see what you're doing. You're like pitter-pattering me here and here, but that's nonsense. And nobody really does that to these people. Just stop them right off the bat. Like you're giving me like lawyerish, argumentative talking points, and they're all nonsense. You're not talking truthfully, and we're speaking over each other's heads or past each other on purpose.
I'll give you an easy. And by the way, I would love that opportunity to actually challenge this kind of debate. But easiest rejoinder to that is, well, do you think that the people, assuming that the story that we've been told about JFK isn't accurate, that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone, do you think that the fact that Donald Trump had a bullet graze his head just 8 months ago, we might want to get to the bottom of who was behind that, and because they may be the people that are behind this? Like it's easy dots to connect, and it would land with his audience, which are largely Trump supporters, or almost entirely Trump supporters, in a way that like I don't even have to get into the Holocaust just to point out the obvious illogic in not caring because that happened a long time ago. It's ridiculous. I mean, everybody knows that this matters because if you figure out that the fucking United States government was behind this in any way, then you know that you have you have intelligence agencies across the board that are working against the interests of the American people in direct conflict with the democratic process, which these people pretend to espouse the values of. I don't do that, but they do. So you just have to hold them to their own principles and be like, so you don't give a fuck who actually took a shot at Donald Trump about the multiple assassination attempts against Donald Trump over the past year, and yet you still grift off of MAGA and America First. You don't care about that, Ben Shapiro. You know, you just hit him like that.
Well, it kind of tells you that they have no more cards to play when the defense that you launch is like, this isn't interesting. This shouldn't interest you. This was a long time ago. That's basically what he's saying. This is a long time ago. This doesn't matter. This has no bearing. And it's like, if that is, you know that you're getting pretty close to the truth, I would say, if that's all they have to levy against you.
That's right.
Amazing.
That's right at that point with CNN. Chris Cuomo saying, don't read these files. We'll read them. We'll tell you what to think. And that's like what happened right after that. It's like Chris Cuomo's fired, and like no one's watching mainstream media anymore. So like this is actually that point.
What was that? What was that? That was the study on IBM?
No, that was
either that or was the study on mRNA.
No. These were the Hunter Biden files, the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's what it was.
Oh,
that's what it was. He was saying
right.
like, if you share this, you may be committing a crime. They started to say that was unbelievable. That was such a fucking huge op. That was one of the biggest, and it was signed off on by 51, active and former intelligence agents. I mean, and this was right off of the wave of the Steele. Christopher Steele's dossier, which was also almost certainly funded by the same deep state apparatus that signed onto that 51 intelligence agents letter. What frustrates me, and I think that this is a point that we might want to expand on, is that it's so obvious that you have the intelligence agencies working against the Donald Trump. And the entire, more than Donald Trump, the populist right-wing movement in this country, to sign off on that letter saying Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation. They were doing everything in their power, right up to the point of taking a shot at the guy, which they did 3.5 years later, to put Joe Biden into the White House, who was, by the way, non-compos menace. His brain wasn't fucking working. They didn't give a fuck. They were just like, we need a puppet. We can't have this guy, despite the fact, whatever your doubts are as to Trump's legitimacy, it's obvious that he is more of an outsider than fucking Joe Biden. Okay.
Significantly more competent too.
Yeah.
Which is hugely important when it comes to running a country. I think what we're going to find too when it comes to if we ever get any revelations on the Hunter Biden laptop front, is that all of the leaks that we saw all those years ago, they're all true too. Just in the same way that the flight logs that we saw from Epstein, those ended up being true. It just goes back to that conversation before about like, we're waiting for these people to come along and pat us on the head and confirm what we already suspected to be true.
Yeah, well, with the laptop, it's already confirmed. I mean, his attorneys fucking sued over it because they said like that's his laptop. So yeah.
That's the one where he was. I think he was doing with one of the Obama kids, and she's hanging out in the background, and you could see her name on the credit card. That's the shit that I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, that one I have never seen confirmation of. I think that may be bullshit, but
I think that was real too. I think it's real.
Whatever. We'll just believe anything at this point. I don't care.
That's not even that damning. You're hanging out with the kid and doing cocaine. I just don't know how old she is. But if she's of age and you want to, do off her back, and,
she was like 20 probably. It's pretty gross.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he's 50.
He's pretty gross. He's pretty gross. He's a gross dude.
He's a he is truly a reprehensible human being. Yeah. I do believe that he had a fucking relationship with his niece.
There's actually some interesting stuff on that which we didn't set out to talk about, but this auto pen thing. I don't know how much veracity CLINT is giving to that, but I really enjoy this story where basically all of Biden's documents that he signed, or at least his the pardons. Yeah, definitely the pardons. Those are being called into question because they were done via auto pen, and Trump went as far as to put up a meme of replacing Biden's picture with an auto pen on the wall of the Oval Office. And I don't know. Does that where do you stand on that? Does that put him Fauci and Hunter up for prosecution, or is this just more bullshit, more fun?
I mean, the announcement that Trump made on it was actually more targeted towards the J6 commission, who were also pardoned. I'm talking about Liz Cheney and that black dude. I'm blanking on his name. Trump has dragged them through the mud mercilessly. So for whatever reason, he really wants to go after them. He did not signal that it was necessarily going to be Fauci or Hunter, which I don't really give a fuck about Hunter, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I think he's a bad guy, but he didn't lock down the country and fucking force it into the entire world. So Fauci is my highest priority. Do I think that's going to happen? No. No, I don't.
But the implications would stand, right? I mean, if you can hold the J6 committee accountable for that sort of thing, then you could feasibly do the same thing for those pardons.
Sure. No, you're right. I just think that the court most likely is not going to overturn the pardons broadly. So I think this is more about like putting people under pressure, creating chaos, having the Democrats in the deep state on their back foot and kind of ducking and dodging, and also having the media having to address this shit. I think it's all like he does a lot of shit to create chaos to give him leeway to actually implement his agenda. I know this sounds like 5D chess argumentation, but like it's clear to me that's what they're doing. Like this is the Blitzkrieg strategy that they came out of the gate with was not an accident. They understood what they did to him in the first term, and he's tried to circumvent their roadblocks by going really fast. He's like, oh, here's your roadblock. Well, I guess what? I'm over here. Like put another roadblock. Okay, I got another path over here. So fuck you. I'm going to just keep moving ahead. It's very smart.
One of the things that they've been doing lately as well is I named it Tesla terrorism, but it seems like they think a weak point in Elon Musk's game is they're like, oh, here's a weak point. If we just destroyed his car company by blowing up his factories and his like dealerships and stuff. And I'm like, this is just insane. But they're going after it nonetheless. I don't know what they intend to achieve by doing this, but they're fucking going full force with this. And I think this video here is Jimmy Kimmel. Well, I haven't watched it though. Should I pull it up?
Yeah, go for it.
And
can Daily Wire audience? Daily Wire audience watched, B-reel of the Teslas on fire, and their little talking head dude, I forget his name, was talking about it, and they're applauding, they're cheering as they watch these cars burn. I mean, it's
right.
Really? Who's that? You're talking about like Matt? What's his name? Walsh? Not Matt Walsh. Fucking
no. Sorry, did I say Daily Wire? I meant Daily Show.
Oh, Daily Show.
Oh, that
okay.
My mistake. That was a huge mistake.
I was like, damn, that's not even.
Yeah, if the Daily Wire was cheering it, I had it really fucked up. But no, it was Daily Show.
I could see them cheering it. They're cheering it in private, probably, but not on the show. Not yet, at least. Yeah. All right, let's check this video out. I can't stand this guy. Yeah.
Even been on incidents of arson. Someone lit a bunch of Teslas on fire. And here's the thing. I get that people are upset. Burning a car might not be great for the environment. I don't think that's what they had in mind when they invented the electric car. In Las Vegas yesterday, someone threw a Molotov cocktail at a Tesla service center. At least 5 Teslas blew up. 1 from the Molotov and 4 because that's just what Teslas do sometimes. And no one should be setting fires. You could somebody, you could hurt somebody. Elon Musk might not care about other people, but decent Americans should. The world's richest man, has been trying to drum up sympathy for himself lately. His sales are down, his stock is down. Last night he was somber as he went through this with Sean Hannity.
Tesla is a peaceful company. We've never done anything harmful. I've never done anything harmful. I've only done productive things. So I think we just have a deranged.
Wait, was that like a laugh track at after he said
must have made? I think Kimmel probably made like a face or some dumb shit.
Okay, all right.
No. I think his audience just laughed because he said he's never hurt anybody.
Let me see that. Yeah, that's so weird.
He's saying he's only been productive.
A deranged. There's some kind of mental illness thing going on here because this doesn't make any sense.
Well, let me see if I can explain it for you. When you pull out a chainsaw to celebrate firing thousands of people, they get mad. It's just my God. I mean,
that's what that is, man. That's the same fucking logic as saying like, you know what happens when you kneel on a addict's. People burn down entire cities. Go figure. Like it's like a kind of a wet way of excusing the behavior. And I just find that these people, right, if you want to call them, being on the left, they're always supposed to be the party of like, understanding and empathy and all this other shit. But they celebrate all of these horrifying things that happen. It just goes back to like the lockdowns, and you can't go outside and you can't protest the lockdowns, but you can go outside and protest on behalf of BLM. And then, it's just crickets or excuses when they burn down and people. It's just
This goes back to our episode with Robbie the Fire, and this is kind of what I was. Listen, I don't necessarily believe that Elon Musk is on the right side. Like, I don't think this is a battle between good and evil. I think that, obviously the left, they're just completely deranged. What we watched there was pretty fucking evil. It was evil to the point where I wanted to laugh a little bit. Like at some points I was like, holy shit, that's evil, dude. Like I wish I could go on national TV and say shit like that. Like, because I think it would be fun, right? To really inflame people. So I'm a little jealous of him that he's able to do that. But like, again, is Trump like the good guy? Is Elon Musk and Trump the good guy? No. Elon wants to put a chip in my brain. But there are two sides battling here, and like I'm keenly aware of that. And it's just interesting how, like, as I said before to Robbie the Fire, I'm like, one side needs to take swift and hard action. If they gain power, you cannot allow the other side to get power back. Yeah. It's as simple as that. I'm proven more right every single day. And people, you can fucking dance around this all you want, but the truth is the truth. If the right has the power right now, they need to use it. They need to wield that power and completely these people for whatever means necessary. It's true. Completely, you've got to stop them.
Before we get into that debate, because this is such a perfect tie-in, the guy who we're talking about, Elon Musk, actually quote tweeted me 2 hours ago. If you could pull up my screen, I'll read it to the audience.
Yeah, dude. So CLINT on fire, getting big Elon Musk retweets.
This is what I said this morning. I said, how it works. Elon attacks the swamp, so the swamp attacks him. The swamp activates the media activates the public. The Tesla street vandals are so stupid that they now really believe the absurd lie that Elon gave an absolute. But why do they believe this? Because the media defends the swamp, because Democrat voters have been programmed for a decade to expect the rise of a fascist dictator, and Trump has been painted as such. And Elon, his henchman. That's the new narrative. Elon was the darling of the Dems, an immigrant who produced electric vehicles to fight climate change. Rationally, they should love him, and they did. But these aren't rational people. The script was flipped, and they proceed as if they've stood steadfastly in opposition to Elon for as long as they can remember. That's not true, but that's irrelevant. There's nothing you can't program these people to believe or to forget. That's what makes them dangerous. And Elon responded with, exactly. So I just thought that was very, very interesting to get his confirmation from his perspective as to what's happening. And I think it's true. I think that these people are they are just propaganda. Like, I know you guys go down the demon path, and I tend to try and not do that. But like, if you're going to hurt innocent people because of a narrative that you've been force fed based off of lies to a large extent, you're kind of a demon.
I don't think it has to be, just to elaborate, I don't think it has to be demons. I think there is a susceptible portion of the population. We've talked about it before. I think it's the overwhelming masses. And I think it's got something to do with suggestibility or ability to be hypnotized. And I do think that, like, much of the propaganda machine, Mockingbird Media, things like that, are designed in a way to hijack your own, psychology and to feed you these talking points and to give you your entire identity and your narrative. And I think they've done a really up job. So I don't know if those people are also susceptible to demonic oppression and possession, but they're also very open to suggestion as long as it's groupthink or their peers feel that way or whatever. It's just they're willing to go along with it, much to the point where they're going to go out in the streets and burn down cities and shit. So
look, it comes down to cowardice, right? And hijacking the human condition. So the human condition would be keep your head below the water line, or keep your head down and don't be the sheep that sticks your head up. And this is what these people do. So they see what's safe and they see what's easy, and that's the way that they go. They're also, and that by that mindset also, when you get them a little bit scared, you're able to just make them do anything they want, and you're seeing them do whatever they want. The question is, what do you do with those people? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if there's any studies to prove that we could change their mind or move them back, which I think that might be possible. I think that they're malleable and easy enough to make us do whatever we want them to do. We just need to grab the culture and the narrative.
What you're talking about there, Top, is like trauma-based mind control. These same people that are open to suggestibility and hypnotism and things like that, they're driven by, and I would wonder, either there's a massive correlation or it's the mechanism at play, and that is fear, willingness to give in to fear. And I think that's at the cornerstone of everything. It's like, how willing are you to live in a constant state of fear? If you're not, because that's when we, if you tell us this thing is hugely detrimental and it's people in droves and we need to lock everything down and everybody's got to wear masks, well, the deciding factor into whether or not you engage with that shit or not is, are you going to give in to the fear spiral? And so I just think that what we're watching rolled out in scale to the public is actually the fruition or the fruits of the program, and which is just fear-based mind control, trauma-based mind control. Show us something horrifying, get us all locked in a fear paradigm, and then give us the solution. And it's very simple when you look at it that way, but I do think that is at the cornerstone of all of these fucking bad decisions. It's fear.
Quite possible. I mean, yeah, Arcane Arsenals over here in the chat says culture is just a fictional action films. But yeah, it's what they create. It's what they show to people over and over. It's the stories that we hear and read and replicate. And that's kind of what drives people. So I don't know if we could maybe move that a little bit more towards the Bible, probably a better book to look at and replicate. It's
interesting. It tells you it says fear not, 365 times. The Bible is telling you that fear is the mind killer.
Yeah, we'd be in a little bit of a better place. I know Clint must not. You know, it's funny. I know that you don't want to like hear that exact remedy or a solution for the world's problems, but I do think that it would solve quite a bit.
I mean, it would solve a lot, but we've seen like totalitarianism spiral out of control using like religious doctrine to try to, bend people to their will or justify this or justify that. And there's a lot of that shit, but that's not the fault of the narrative. It's not a fault of the information. It's more of a recognition that it's an incredibly powerful tool. And if you're an asshole, you could use it to bend people to your will. That's more so where it comes from. But, I don't necessarily know that we need to be Christian nationalists. I don't know that we need that mixture of state and religion. I think it all just spirals out of control. There's always going to be those, especially within politics, that are seeking to, capture more power and bend people to their will. And it just so happens that the Bible is a great tool for doing that if you wield it poorly, rather.
Illy.
Illy. That's the first one I made up today. I forget what the one I made up the other day is. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think we should. We know we just lost Clint. I kind of want to move into the Q drop a little bit and see what he says. Do you want to pull that up in the meantime while we're fishing for Clint?
Yeah, okay. I kind of wanted to ask him himself to his face, but it corresponds to the JFK drop here. So this is I don't like to really delve too much into this into Q stuff. But when it does present itself and it's really fun, I start to feel a certain way about it. So
what's going on here? Because it just says panic mode, enjoy the show, Q, which is like fucking, if you pay attention to QAnon, those expressions, that's like synonymous with like patriots are in control. Fucking exhausting. Absolutely exhausting.
And it makes no sense.
So what are we looking at here?
This makes no sense for when it was posted. And it was posted on March 18th of 2018.
Right.
So... yeah, and then on March 18th of 2025, this is 7 years later, we get the JFK files dropping. And they drop in a way that is very strange, right? Like, it's not like a... One second, let me pull Clint back up here. Here we go. They don't drop in a way that's like expected. So he announces, you have 45 days to declassify this stuff and drop these JFK files. It passes that time frame. And then we have the other lady, Pam Bondi, and we have Anna Paulina Luna. They're talking about dropping this stuff, and they kind of like never do. All right, Clint's out again. I don't know what's going on with his internet.
He's having some technical difficulties, but we'll keep it going while he's gone.
Yeah, I hope he could hear this, Clint.
I know. So, I really want, because that's, I know what we think about the Q drops. I want to know what Clint thinks about this. And honestly, now that Clint's not here, I would say that if you're paying attention, that seems really significant. But if you're not aware of their sort of like future proves past model, which is what they say constantly throughout these drops, which, just for the audience listening, to me, this is a psychological operation. I'm even open to the idea that Q is a AI, right? That's been presented to us recently. And I think there might be some veracity to that, because a lot of what the Q drops are kind of rehashing old fucking conspiracies. So it almost feels like there was a web bot that scraped the internet for a bunch of really compelling conspiracy theories, localized them into one spot, and then started calling people in to try to decipher, whatever coded language it was throwing about. One of the coded languages that they constantly throw about is this idea that future proves past. So they will say something like panic mode, enjoy the show, right? Q. And it's very cryptic, and fucking 7 years ago, nobody knows what it means. And then you have an event that takes place that corresponds, and the correspondence is typically in the date. I'll give them that. It's in the date or it's in the number of the Q drop. So it's a very clever. It's Mr. Patriot. Mr. Patriot is Q. It's a very clever system. I don't know if it's a person that's at the head of it or if it's an artificial intelligence that's at the head of it. And I kind of realize like it is open to interpretation. If I say something vague, eventually a moment will take place that will make it seem like it kind of fits to that vague cryptic message I gave you 7 years ago. But to their credit, sometimes it's incredibly uncanny. I would say this one is in the middle. I mean, it's a big date. We did, get the JFK files, so it is a big deal.
This is the thing that bothers me. So they have nailed a lot of these future proofs past posts. Enough for me to go like, at first I was like, these guys are, but now I'm kind of like, I'm very uncomfortable with what's going on. For this to happen on the 18th of March in 2025, for him to drop, and it's like, I don't even know, like they dropped partial or a little bit more than partial JFK files from what happened last time.
Which is crazy because it's fucking 80,000 pages.
Yeah.
Like, good God.
He did something sort of significant on this day. Yes. And it wasn't supposed to happen. It was just like Trump was like, it's going to go down. We're dropping them on this day. It's going to be the 18th. And he's standing in front of the JFK Memorial saying that they are going to do this thing. And then he does it. So Clint, are you there? Can you hear us?
Oh, I think you're muted.
You're muted, or your mic is not connected or something.
He knocked the plug out of his mic, and it's
go ahead and check your settings, your audio settings, because I can see and hear you. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
I have a feeling though that when we do get Clint, he's going to take a kind of an approach like that, where it's like you can amorphously say something or say something vaguely enough, and at some point we got
give us a sound check.
Testing.
There we go.
Sounds
baby.
great.
We're here.
You're back in.
What the fuck?
All right, so we got to catch you up, Clint. Pull that up on the screen real quick, and I'll give you the 1,000-foot overview. Basically, what we have here is a Q drop, dropped 7 years ago on the 18th of March, and it says, panic mode, enjoy the show, Q. And the system that's built within the Q drops, which in my estimation is almost certainly an intelligence operation, is as follows. It's future proves past. So they will drop a cryptic message many years in advance, and then, they are playing 5D, 6D, 17D chess in order to make these events take place in the future on a specific date. And so you always look to the date. That's your correlation, is it'll repeat itself. So 3/18/2018 is where it drops, and then 3/18/2025 is when we get the JFK
This has
files.
This has happened a couple of times, but again, so on 3/18/2018, they said this, like, panic mode, shit's going down on this day. The JFK files were not supposed to drop on the 18th. They were supposed to drop earlier. He gave the government a certain time frame. We had Anna Paulina Luna talking about how she's going to review and release these things, and I think she was doing her little gay campaign, taking pictures of herself, just getting followers and shit like this, how she's going to release the JFK files. Never happened. Trump goes to the JFK Memorial and he says they're going to be released in tomorrow for realistically no reason. Like, the time frame had already passed, and on this day he's like, we're going to release them. And then on the day, they're like, we can't release them. It's going to be late. We're going to have to push it back. But then they come out like after hours, after 5 p.m. when the government should not be working. It comes out at like 6:30 or something like that, and then they release the files. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Because again, it's like everything is pushed to be on the same day to prove this fucking Q post again, and it's coming from Donald Trump. It's just I'm going crazy. I'm schizophrenic already, and this has got me reeling again. It's just one of those things that I see and I go, God damn, man, what's going on?
The easier rational explanation would just be that Trump, who has fed red meat to the Q audience for years now, just said to himself, I'm going to, like, he asked, or one of his advisors says, hey, it'd be fucking great if you release these on March 18th. Like, they would love that.
I know we would do that. Like, if we had some sort of conspiracy about the show, we would 100% launch shit on a specific date, just to fuck with people.
So I think that's the more likely answer. If you believe that fucking Q is some time traveling, deep state operative, that all right, maybe. I've not seen enough to believe that.
No, then the logic for me would be not that Q is a time traveling deep state op,
but that's what a lot of people believe, right?
Yeah, they believe a lot of shit. They also believe that JFK Jr. is still alive and that he's working behind scenes and he's soon going to step out into the light.
He was at the Butler assassination attempt rally.
Yeah. Oh no, that guy. That guy's really funny actually. Vince something or another. I fucking DM'd him like years ago and I was like, "Are you JFK Jr., dog?" And all he did was and you know what he did in fucking stellar fashion? Just sent me a winky face, which is exactly what you do. That's exactly what you do. And I was like, this motherfucker. But I talked to Leonardo Joni, and she said, no, I've stood next to that guy. He's a manlet. And, JFK Jr. is however tall he was. So she says it's not true. A lot of people say that. He's a very small guy. But I think he's leaning into that character, which is the fucking move. It's very funny.
I never got to make my final point on the evolution of authoritative figures from the old guard all the way up through the Daily Wires to everything else. I think that because, and Top actually made this point, it made me think while I was rebooting my computer and trying to figure out what my audio was fucked, that, yeah, he's right, that for $5,000, anybody can look professional. Literally anybody. And you can have a very high produced show, especially if you're willing to put in the time. Like, you don't need resources. Daily Wire rose to prominence on the fact that, Shapiro was an early YouTube guy and he was just destroying the libs, and that's super hard to do, right? Because these people are very intelligent and rational. But what they did is they just funneled millions of dollars into, boosting his signal over and over again. But it's no longer working because the real currency in the new paradigm is just honesty and sincerity. And if you can't deliver that, it doesn't matter how well you package it. It's just, that's the real, this is the whole reason that Rogan's star hasn't fallen, is that despite the fact that, he hasn't really changed his production quality tremendously. He's got different studios and shit like that, but no one really gives a fuck about that. It's that he still continues to have on cutting edge people that are talking about things that are otherwise not discussed in the mainstream.
True. To be honest, his cameras are just good.
Yeah, they're fine.
They're good.
Yeah, they're fine. But that's my point, is it doesn't matter. So a lot of people would say, well, the old guard can't compete in the new arena. It's no, that's not true. As long as they tell the truth, they will still maintain their level of prominence. If you don't tell the truth, though, you will fall. And that's what's happening to Daily Wire. This is why Candace Owens is rising and they're falling. I mean, not just falling, but imploding. And I think that more than anything, as to whether or not you believe, Rogan or Candace Owens are the real deal and they're on our side or anything like that, that's not the point that I'm making. The point I'm making is that it is palatable to at least present yourself as someone who's interested in the truth, who's interested in being honest with their audience. That is the real capital in this environment, and that is a very healthy paradigm. So I think that we're in a great spot right now.
I agree that it is a much better place to be. And I could see that authenticity is rising. It's winning. And I would say that even on NDS, much of the success that we find isn't because we're breaking ground or introducing you to something that's, it's just because we don't hide and we're not pretending to be something else. And that really resonates with people. But you and I actually deviated, I think, the last episode because we kind of were getting into the speculation about Ian Carroll. And it's not so much about him, but I believe, if I remember correctly, the stance that you were taking is look, you really can't manufacture authenticity. And so it's very unlikely that the Cass Sunstein model of cognitive infiltration is as effective as we fear that it might be, because you don't really think that a lot of the people that we're sharing the space with are, let's just use the term that everybody throws around, like feds, right? And I started thinking about that a little bit since our last episode, and I agreed with you initially because it is very hard to engineer authenticity, but I don't think that it is impossible. And it's a trick because you have to get the person to believe in something and not know that they're being steered. But I just remember, these people, they give us these Hollywood, for example, has manufactured all of our superstars. I mean, people that have infiltrated our homes, infiltrated our families in the sense of becoming beloved staples. I have a love for Robin Williams. I have a love for a man that doesn't know, well, he's dead now, but doesn't know that I exist. And I'm not saying that Robin Williams was manufactured. Obviously, he's a talent. But the point is, Hollywood has been pumping out all of our idols for the longest time. I don't think it's that far of a stretch. It would probably be a little bit more difficult, but I don't think it's that far of a stretch to be able to create somebody who's influential in this realm, this podcasting, this long-form content.
I mean, that's the exact point I was making about the Daily Wire. Think about how they rose to prominence. He was a truth teller because he was telling the truth to green-haired liberals who were saying that, you know, a man could be a woman and fucking abortion's awesome and it's not murder and all this shit. It's like, and all he had to do was go up there and just be like, well, no, that's not true. And everyone's like, oh, this fucking guy's awesome. But this is how you manufacture a false hero, is that they tell the truth when you're in a time awash in madness, which is basically what 2012 through 20 was. It was just pure fucking madness. And the Jordan Petersons and the Ben Shapiro's of the world rise to this incredible level of prominence just by telling basic truths. It took some level of courage, I guess, to tell the truth during that period. I was doing it. No one, I'm sure you guys were too. We didn't give a fuck, but they did it and they rose to prominence. But this is where then you can actually buy these people out. Like, I don't think that those people necessarily, like Ian Carroll, for instance, I think he's the real deal. That's not to say that Ian Carroll couldn't be bought off at some point. Someone fucking backs up the Brinks truck and says, hey, here's a $20 million contract to sign on to fucking Daily Wire because we're going to repackage and we're going to be truth tellers now. And now we were going to have you fucking curtail some of your messaging on Israel and fucking focus on this and that and this and that. And it's like, that's how you do it. You don't have to create from its inception. You buy out on the back end. Now, I'm not saying Ian Carroll will be bought out or that he's the type of person that could be.
Well, he doesn't have to be bought out, right? He could be threatened. I mean, there's a lot of people that, you know, there's a lot of people that I like and but I also suspect might be compromised to one degree or another. I don't necessarily jump straight to the idea that they just got all this money. I tend to lean on the idea of, like, you know what's much more effective? Say something about their family. You're going to do something to their family. Yeah. And yeah, man, I'll get on screen and I'll dance like a monkey for you. Don't my family. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's not at all out of the realm of possibilities. You could either take the left hand that's got cash or you could take the right one that's clenched in a fist.
Plata or plomo.
Right.
So what's it? Lead or silver?
Yeah. Well, listen, before we continue, I want to address some of the super chats, but I'm going to cut the stream to everywhere except for our Dangerous Retards channels, which are going to be on YouTube and Rumble and not on X. So everywhere else, if you guys are enjoying us here, enjoying what you're seeing, you can go ahead and click that link, Linktree Dangerous Retards, and watch us on YouTube or Rumble. I'm also doing a Rumble raid, at least from the Nephilim Death Squad channel. So go ahead and find us over there and finish the conversation with us there. So
I love that I'm the gringo that hits you with the Spanish fucking saying. That was fun.
That was good. And actually, your enunciation was like,
I speak decent Spanish. Grew up in San Diego.
Top, you said you wanted to bring something up.
Yeah, we're gonna read some super chats in a second after I get rid of all of these people that are watching us on the wrong platforms.
So if you're watching on my X right now, hop over to Dangerous RTRDs on YouTube and come watch us there.
All right, and we're
much
off.
more intimate. We could watch our live stream numbers plummet.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's very sad.
Yo, tell me what it goes from to.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna lose about 1,500 people. That's fine.
Let's get into some of these super chats. We have them. No, they're not in there. Never mind.
I got them over here pulled up. Just give me 1 second, guys. Yep, we need a producer. So if anybody's interested in producing, you could let us know.
We had that conversation.
Here we go. Okay. Lucas with the hard R tells us Twitter DMs $2. I don't know what that means. Okay.
I'll check my Twitter DMs.
That's all from there, and we have a couple more in the other private chat, which I will pull up right now. Sorry, give me a second.
Very insulting. Star Crime says, now we have misfit Patriot numbers. That
hurt. Kid.
That hurt.
It can't be that low. What are we at now?
It's not that low. It won't tell me. It still says 2,000 people.
Okay, well that's definitely
which
not
is
true.
fine. Just keep lying to me, please.
Yeah, it feels better to feel like 2,000 people are watching.
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Mad Mama Bear 75 says references to Michael Aquino in the Doc Dump ? Also, no fucking timeline cleanse this week. Lame, David. Yeah, David was too busy this week.
Very, very busy week. We've been having a lot of meetings. We're making the operation bigger, and we're extending, and I am a little overextended, so I've been kicking my feet up. But I have heard peripherally that Aquino was mentioned in the document dumps, which is, he's basically a high-ranking military intelligence Satanist who is rumored to be constantly engaging in SRA, right, satanic ritual abuse, and
he was tied into the founders, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. I haven't looked at the documents, like I said, because 80,000 pages is a lot, and I find that if you give things enough time, the more important aspects will kind of rise to the surface, and then you can start digging. But I've not.
David,
heard,
I would encourage you,
anything
despite your laziness, which I respect, I would encourage you to read some of these documents that have gone viral. Like, whether or not you come to a hard conclusion, it has been incredibly enlightening to me to see how the government, communicates internally. It's really fascinating. For everybody listening, I would encourage you guys to read some of these things. It's really, really just kind of shows you how the fucking sausage is made in a disgusting way.
They communicate as if they hate you.
Yeah. Well, oh, sorry. I'll let you finish.
I was just going to say, I see Lucas with a hard R says, oh, I found it. Okay. He sent something a minute ago. I'll read it. Actually, I can pull it up from here. Let's see. Boom. And this one. All right. So this is going to be some sort of documents from the JFK files. Let me just share that, and we'll skim through it real quick. Thank you, Lucas, with a hard R.
Okay.
Boom.
All right, we're
there
gonna
it
look
is.
at
Tom, you want to bring that up?
some J stuff.
Okay.
There we go.
Boom.
Man, that is incredibly small, hard to read. I'll look at it on my phone, and let's see. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, there's a highlighted part.
This is the line that I was trying to paraphrase when we began.
So,
I think with the Cubans.
We now have plenty of money. Our new backers are, as soon as we or they take care of Kennedy. And I wonder who's saying that. For the information of all offices confirmed, 21265 advised on November 26, 1963.
So these are the Cuban revolutionaries.
Okay, that he had heard one. It's real fucked up and hard to read. That he had heard that one allegedly had been attempting to negotiate a sale of machine guns to, it's fucking.
Right, I've heard.
It's very.
This is the gun running stuff you're talking about. That
seems that way.
Correlated right back to Mossad or Israel. I guess that would just be Israel at the time, because was Mossad even in operation?
Well, it's to say,
yes.
did Israel have an intelligence agency?
Yes, they did. They are an intelligence agency.
Right, it seems that way.
All right, so the example of what I'm talking about, how it's really fascinating. If you could take this down, it's no value. There was this document that comes out, and it was basically pushing back against the disclosures under the Clinton administration. And this letter was written by a guy who had a 30-plus year tenure within the CIA. He went on to become the chief, I think, security officer for Oracle under Larry Ellison, which I found fascinating. But in this letter, what he's saying, and this is the last year before he goes in the private sector, he's saying, we have no problem with most of these disclosures, but it's very important that you redact the connection to the United States State Department as cover for our officers. And he says it explicitly. It's this 2-page document. He says explicitly, because of the State Department masking of our agents, which are direct CIA agents, it gives them diplomatic immunity. It gives them all sorts of additional protections that allow us to protect our agents behind enemy lines. And also, it allows us to put them into nations in which the leadership would be cooed out of power if they knew that they were allowing for CIA operations to happen within their countries. I mean, basically, he gives you the entire fucking layout. It's like the State Department is just the CIA. That's what it is. Yeah. But it was so profound to get to read that, and then to realize that this guy goes on to be at the highest levels of power within corporate America, and to realize that the CIA, these 3-decade-long tenured guys who are responsible for covering up the fucking JFK assassination files, then go on to be the second in command behind Larry Ellison. I'm just like, man, I understand why people go down these rabbit holes and lose their fucking minds, but it's like, I started to do it yesterday, and I was like, yeah, there's a lot of fucking fire to this smoke.
I think it's going to develop over time too. I mean, just
you
that
should
much.
Have on Austin Picard.
Oh yeah. I've had him on. He's awesome.
This dude, he's one of the people who probably has lost his mind that went down this rabbit hole, and he'll give you fucking names off the top of his head who did what and when they did it, and it's baffling. I don't like going down that. I go down that sort of conspiracy, but only briefly. I just like touch the walls a little bit, because if you really dig deep and start remembering names, it's just. And honestly,
it's too much. It just breaks your psyche. Or at least for me, like I'm not strong enough to just be like, yeah, I understand everything and I remember everything, and like I'm just like, no, I want to forget some of this stuff.
I feel like that sort of delivery is for people who are skeptical. If you're not skeptical, I think the 1,000-foot overview does a lot better. It's like you can kind of touch on these things, flesh them out a little bit, but then just see how they play with the rest of this crap that's happening on the world stage. But if you are skeptical, then you need that. Here's names, here's dates, here's receipts.
It's for debate format. It's ideal because like I understand basically everything that Scott Horton does, but I'll forget all of the details and I'll just tell you this overview. And I think like for my audience, that's perfect. But if it's a debate format where someone's pushing back, like, well, where did you read that? What's the sources? Da 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 da. It's like, well, my source is all of the fucking incredible research that Scott Horton has done. And if you want to get absolutely destroyed with facts and dates, Scott will do that, but I'll just give you the narrative, basically a narrative overview. It's just we all have different sets. I feel like I would fucking genuinely lose my mind if I remembered everything Scott does.
Yeah, I think we can all do that. It's just like you're one of those stock characters, like when you make a wrestling game and you can give your guy attributes, like he could be tall or he could be fast. Like which one? You can't have
all
both.
Fast.
Yeah, like exactly. It's like so. Shout out to Jose's show with Austin Picard, already dead. No way, Jose. Because that lane that he is in would drive me fucking crazy. Where they're talking about the 09A people, and like some of the people he has on, like BX. She won't even fuck with us because she's like, these guys are not serious.
Apparently, that's not true. Apparently,
I think it's true.
She says she just hasn't. She's been telling people she just hasn't been invited.
That's fine. We
had a chat earlier in this show that said, I don't know why CLINT continues to fuck with these guys. So like,
that was as soon. Are you kidding me? That was as soon as the fucking like the intro rolled. As soon as it started making noise, this guy was like, I don't fucking know why he fucks with these guys.
This is like the way Nephilim Death Squad and me and David are structured. It's like very high personality and high on comedy and sarcasm, facts, super low facts, but in the middle of like information retention, we're like 50%. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I can't tell you why, but I can tell you that, and I can make it funny and convincing. Jose, on the other hand, that's a show that you go to. You want to know facts that you'll never fucking remember in an argument when you're talking to your grandmother. Go to that show, write this stuff down, because you're getting fucking bam, 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 bam. You're getting hit with so many facts, and I just can't do. But I realized keenly when we started this thing, I'm like, I can go one way or the other. And the way to remembering all these things and bring them up, it's just it would never. It's not fun, and it never would flow with me. It would be a bad show if I did it that way. But I enjoy their show for that reason, because it gives me.
I read Scott Horton's fucking 800-page tome.
Me too.
But if you expect me to fucking remember every fact out of that thing, I'd have to reread it a couple times, and it's like, I'm not doing that. Sorry. Like,
that's my thing. It's like I might actually know, like when you're like, who is the big baddie and how exactly does it all work? I think I know it. I just don't remember it. Like I've certainly absorbed parts of it. Like somebody hit me up the other day and they're like, you didn't say this, that, and the other thing. That would have tied it all together. And I was like, I simply don't fucking remember.
You know what's funny? I rewatched like 10 minutes of my debate against Destiny 2 years ago in Tennessee about the Ukraine war, just because I wanted to see how it held up. And obviously it held up decently well. No, I was not jerking off. That's a strange thing to say. He was jerking off in the corner during the debate, obviously. But what I realized is like I was saying facts that I do not remember, like because I had just finished reading Scott's book. And I was just like, how the fuck did I know that?
Nice.
It was just interesting.
Well, I got something. Unless you had more super chats, Top, I have something that is not fact driven. What do you got?
We do have 2 more super chats, which I want to get to before I forget. So real quick, one right here. Oh, what the fuck is that?
That's the wrong one. We're going to get into that in a second.
Yeah, one right here from Quiet Chaos, $5. Love the show. Fucking PSYOP season forever. Thank you very much. And if you guys give me a second, we have more super chats pulled up in another. It's kind of disjointed because we went live to a couple of different places. So there might have even been a super chat in the Tower Gang Rumble, which I just can't pull up right now.
We'll figure it out. In the future, we'll consolidate and we'll get it. You know, it's we're building the ship as we move.
This will be the last super chat. If you didn't get yours in, we saw it after the fact. But Robert Wolf, $20. Thank you. Yo, a lot of crazy shit going on, but we should pay a little bit of attention to the weather. NWS can't keep up. What's NWS? National Weather
I think
Station?
he means NDS.
No, I think National Weather Station can't keep up. And never could. Seeing some gnarly things.
Huh.
There's certainly, I mean, the weather is a little strange, but there's certainly something to say about the spraying of the skies. We're going
so
full
tired
conspiracy
of talking
here.
about the.
Yeah, let's talk about what they spray over us now.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's always them.
It is. I mean, it was today was bad. Today it looked like fingernail scratches across the sky,
Yeah.
like 5 of them side by side.
I got him behind me right now.
You see him?
Yep.
It's
so
bizarre. Obvious. Dude, the other day I was looking out the window and I was joking around. I said, these Freemasons are spraying my sky because they kind of do like the Freemasonic compass and square. And I take a picture of it.
Little triangles.
Fucking yeah. I take a picture of it and I post it just jokingly. The next day I'm sitting on my porch looking out the back screen, and in the exact same location in the sky is the exact same shape. They just keep spraying. It's like they do a lot of X's, and I guess it like coincidentally made that kind of a shape. But I mean, I just can't imagine that naturally the same exact cloud formation would be in the exact same spot where I took a picture of it the day previously. It's so obvious they're just spraying us with shit.
Unless that's the flight pattern. This is why I'm here for the rational explanation on everything. That could just be the flight pattern, and it could be natural contrails based off of the atmospheric pressure of that day. However, I will say, I think, like, I fall in the camp of, do I think that they have sprayed us with shit historically? Absolutely. Do I think that they spray us every day to control our minds? No, I do not. I think it's very unlikely that, like, they live here. Do you think they want to spray themselves too?
I'm looking at 4 stories right now in the past 2 days. One from Tallahassee Democrat, Florida Phoenix, the Palm Beach Post, and
famous last words from a person.
I love it.
It says legislation to track complaints advances in Florida Senate. So right now there is an effort to pass legislation that's going to limit or eliminate from being spent. Now that doesn't mean that it's definitively true, right? I mean, obviously this thing has to go all the way to the end.
As far as I'm concerned, ban it. I'm all for banning it.
Yes. Here we go.
Even if it's not happening, ban it.
It says measure to ban geoengineering projects wins bipartisan support in the Senate panel. Sponsor acknowledges skepticism about chemtrails, but says bill would separate fact from fiction. So in the world of like conspiracies where we're fucking getting everything, we now have on the table, we're at least going to parse out what's true about the chemtrails and what's not true about the chemtrails. So
can we please talk about these fucking pyramids, dude? The Giza
I
pyramids?
actually don't know.
Sure,
I saw that and I was like,
before we
bitch, what the
hold
fuck
on.
is this?
I just want to say, like, you can go back. I mean, probably a little further, but one of my favorite examples is just Breaking Bad. Go watch Breaking Bad, and when they cut scenes, they'll show the New Mexico desert, and above it, it's just fucking all the time.
Yeah.
You'll see them. They'll be making them, and I'm like, are they doing this on purpose? Like, are they showing this so that we like psychologically think we're in a dystopian hellscape? Because that wasn't the case. If you go to an older movie, the skies weren't just being like clouded like this. Something's going on, and planes are not flying higher than they were before.
It's
They're
been
spraying
very
something.
contentious too, because Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge says here an emergency fuel
Atomic
dump is
Shaman.
one thing, but they are spraying barium salts and aluminum oxide. And I remember a long time ago where they were like trying to take soil samples to determine whether or not we are being sprayed with some sort of heavy metals and shit. But the problem is apparently in any soil sample, you're going to find traces of aluminum and everything. So it's like, it becomes very difficult. I don't know what the truth is. I just know that it didn't used to be like this. And now these things, they seem to be, in my opinion, sprayed in such a way that it's almost strategic. Like they know which way the wind's going to blow. And the way it works is they spray these skinny lines during the day. By the evening, they've migrated and they're covering the entire sun. And I'm like, that's not where they started, but they always end up there. Very strange. So I would, I want to find out. They
do it for weather modification. I have no doubt that they are doing some of this for weather modification.
Because they made it rain in Dubai, right?
Yeah.
Cloud seeding and such.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
this
they do
doesn't
that in China too. So
This doesn't make sense for Florida. Why would you want to make it rain in Florida? It already rains all the time in Florida. It would
then it would have to be what CLINT is saying, where there's just like the superheated turbine engines passing through like cool air creates this condensation and it leaves it behind.
Well, there are absolutely natural contrails.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is a thing too. So, but
I
they
find
usually
that they don't
usually
stick
dissipate
around as long.
Exactly, they usually dissipate fairly quickly, and these tend not to. So it's look, like I said, I do believe it happens. I don't believe that they're doing it for mind control purposes, because it would be controlling their own minds too. These motherfuckers all live around us. So that's where I fall.
They all the food. And I guess like they could just not eat the food, but they just
they could get their own food if that's the case. But I don't know.
They put literal, and it's not even a joke at this point. Like it's pretty bad. It's why most people are, I think.
But I mean,
days.
even if they don't spray from the sky, the pesticides and other things that they put on the food supply is largely poisoning us anyways. It seems like so.
I love this. This is from Brad on YouTube. He says, Albuquerque, New Mexico announced their cloud seeding this month due to the lack of rain. LOL. And he says, so Breaking Bad mention is pretty spot on given the location and everything.
There you
but
go.
even that was, I mean, back in the day when I was a young conspiracy theorist, I would be ridiculed quite often for saying that they could manipulate the weather and that they might have HARP or something that is emitting like microwaves into the ionosphere, and that's causing some sort of a storm front to develop, or even something on the ground level like an earthquake. And the idea that the government could manipulate the weather at all was laughable. Then all of a sudden we crossed. It wasn't like we went to a place where the public was aware that now the government was exploring the idea of weather manipulation. It just went from that's laughable to yeah, we're fucking doing it. It was the Eddie Murphy's couch bit from like, why would I fucking grind my feet into Eddie Murphy's couch or Charlie Murphy's couch like it was something to do.
Grinding my feet into Charlie
Murphy's couch. Yeah, I remember
couch.
grinding my feet. It's the fucking same thing. It's like, why would we who can manipulate the weather? Why would we ever? Yeah, motherfucker, we're manipulating the weather. We need it to rain in Dubai. Like all of a sudden, fucking incredible, man. They just really
okay. So you know what? Well, I'm going to break this on here just a little bit because me and David have been working on something that you put us onto, Clint.
You dirty bastard.
Yeah, and I know I've been saying crazy shit about it on Tower Gang. Go ahead, watch Tower Gang. We had a banger episode last night. Bam, go watch Tower Gang. That was a fun one. But Clint, you put us onto the telepathy tapes, which I was resistant to listen to for a while because, rightly so, it's done by a liberal lesbian white woman.
Who should be disregarded usually. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, discarded, opinion completely discarded, shouldn't even be allowed to buy a microphone. But that's neither here nor there.
I think we should stop women from buying microphones. That's a great idea.
It would be, the world would be better. Yeah, a lot better. I listened to it, and there's a lot of things in it that we're going to do like a deep dive or maybe even a series and go like episode by episode of what this person is talking about and where they're maybe not lying, but being a little deceitful. And
even if they're not being deceitful, they're not catching on to something.
Well, if you want to fucking go viral, I would do a series debunking the telepathy tapes. There's your algorithmic goal.
Oh, it's not debunking it. It's very real, but they're missing something huge.
But the reason why, and here's what I'd say. It seems that like, so in the end of the telepathy tapes, she says that, and the parents say as well, which is, I think is kind of cope. They're saying, oh man, these people, these nonverbal autistic kids, they're functioning at such a high level that they can communicate with us telepathically. And we think that this is the baseline of humanity. And basically, we're the ones that are behind.
Yes.
And they are ahead. They are more
I was very
advanced.
disappointed to be listening to Tower Gang and to have the telepathy tapes come up and then to listen to each one of you guys besides Top espouse something that sentiment was, I think this is the new step in human evolution. And I was like, holy shit, because we had just been talking about how that sentiment has been received by some portion of the population, but we don't know how much of the population. Apparently, 5 out of 6 people or 4 out of 5 people believe that, because that's exactly what happened on Tower Gang. As soon as it was mentioned, everybody was like, I think they're advanced. I think they're, the next stage. And it was said
that's just because we're all autists and we want to pretend as if we're the next
jokingly.
evolution.
Right. But it is there's some part of the public that's latched onto that sentiment, and it's said in jest a lot. But I think it's like a little seed that's been planted. And
well, then what the fuck point are you guys making? I don't
I'm
the broader point about
I'm making a point.
I'm not making any point. I'm posing a question. Can I
I'm
pose
looking
a question?
At the clock. I'm looking at the clock and I'm saying, how much longer do we know? Listen, what I'm saying.
Kanye?
Yeah, what I'm saying is that just like with this spraying in the air, you're saying, well, why would they do this to all the people? And I think it's a technique that is now being, I think, has been released on the population in mass. It's not. It's no longer these controlled experiments. Yeah, I mean, we see that with the TV. We see that with our phones and stuff. I think that it goes to. I think that this spraying has something to do with it. The heavy metals that they're spraying on us have something to do with what we're breathing, ingesting, eating, and the food on the floor, drinking in our water. But all these kids, I guarantee you, if you ask their mother, how many have they had? They'd be like, they're up to date. Of course, I'm compliant. And they need to go to school. You know, they need to be functioning part in the society. And it's like, oh, so we have a regiment of 64 that we're going to distribute to children that are children under 12. I think it's up to 70 something now. We're going to distribute this. And like, I think the nonverbal autism rate is up by like 1,000%, some wacky shit like that she says. But this is a gift. This is a gift. And these people, these kids that are trapped inside their bodies, because they actually explain in this show, it's brilliant. There's a disconnect, a frequency disconnect between this kid's body and this kid's mind. And sometimes they'll use a tuning fork to kind of get that a little closer together, and then they'll be able to communicate. They do something called spelling, where they like assisted spelling. They're touching their arm and they're able to press letters on a board, which is, again, highly skeptical. Some people don't believe it. I believe it. But to me, it looks like an experiment worldwide, or at least America, nationwide. And the effects are profound. And now what we're finding is these kids have telepathy because, well, they've been trapped inside their body. They've been caused, trauma has been caused on them. And now they're using these innate abilities, which I think we already have, but the ability to speak out loud and prophesy is more powerful than being trapped in your own brain or being able to read thoughts. I think that that's like pre-existent rudimentary shit. That's stuff from the Tower of Babel, and it was expelled from us, which kind of leads into the pyramid stuff. But go ahead, David. I see you're ready to jump in here,
dude. I mean, this is the question. You said what's the point that I'm making, Clint? I'm not. I'm simply posing a question, and that question is, if we have which is a trauma-based mind control program, the idea is to create a dissociative identity disorder, and what happens is a person then becomes programmable to whatever extent, or you have the Montauk Project, which is through you can awaken latent psychic abilities in children, right? This is where you get Stranger Things. It was based off of that. So we have this based identity dissociation disorder that's going on. And that gives you access to a bunch of weird aspects of child psychology. Well, that seems like the same thing. You traumatize them by inoculating them, destroying them as they're developing, and then trapping them in their own fucking body, right? And then what do you get? You have to. If your body is not going to do what you want it to do, you have to disassociate. You have to disassociate. And when you disassociate, what happens? Latent psychic abilities expose themselves.
Okay.
So there is something really fucking nefarious here. And then to go the extra step and say that this is an advancement in human psychology or the next step in evolution, when from where I'm sitting, it looks like a result of, it looks like you fucking these kids had absolutely no other recourse but to withdraw and go within themselves.
Now let's take the next step. Elon Musk Neuralink files to trademark telepathy.
Boom.
Yeah, the brain implant company co-founded by Elon is moving forward to trademark the product names including telepathy and telekinesis. This is all just like organically happening as Joe Rogan brings up the telepathy tapes, blows it up, and now this is in the forefront of our mind. Just as they're about to roll out this Neuralink shit.
You know what else Rogan is blowing up? Sensory deprivation tanks. That's John C. Lilly jerking off dolphins, using psychedelics to commute psychically with them. The program takes a big interest in that. Well, for some reason, Rogan blows it up. What else does he blow up? Psychedelics, which are the cornerstone of the projects, right? Whenever they're doing this, they're kidnapping Johns from whorehouses and dosing them with LSD. You have the sort of trope of, what would you call it? Clockwork Orange, where they're sitting you in the chair and they're stretching your eyes open. They're hitting you with a dump of some sort of psychedelic, and they're exposing you to based mind control programming, right?
Even bigger than this. These people go as in episode 4, she goes as far as to even mention the name of the guy, the godfather of these experimentations. And she does it through like some of his more innocuous creations or patents. she's talking about Lucille Ball having dental implant surgery and picking up radio waves because telekinesis is possibly linked to radio waves. And she goes, by the way, in the 50s, some guy, Andrija Puharich, developed this radio wave technology where they would put that in as a dental implant into your mouth. And it was used at the time as a voice to skull technology, like the voice of God. And it was driving people crazy. It's partially where you get the term tinfoil hat, because guys were wrapping their heads in tinfoil so that way to stop the fucking signal. And this lady Kai Dickens just happens to stumble upon it and briefly touch on it. She says the guy's name and she goes, anyway, let's talk about these fucking kids. And I'm like, no.
By the way, the guy who was fundamental in the beginnings of the project. I mean, he was, his technology, his research, his studying.
You mean Puharich?
Andrija Puharich, yeah. We're doing Andrija. We've been doing a deep dive on him because he's connected to so many things, but it's too many things to unpack here. Just zoom out, right? We're talking about zooming out and seeing that 1,000-foot overview. Why are we celebrating this as if these kids are not disassociating and are not?
So you're arguing that they're victims.
It's not just that they're victims. It's that telepathy is not a fucking advantage. I mean, it's an advantage that we probably all can do, but I think it's been removed from us. And you could make a bunch of speculations. It's the shit that we eat, the crap that they spray in the air, the programming that we're exposed to every day. I think it would just
be a natural consequence of evolution that once you're able to speak verbally, you don't need to deal with the chaos of hearing everybody.
That depends on how you look at the ability to speak verbally.
Well, we also have I mean, I'm sure David shares this with his wife, but with my wife, many times I'll be thinking a song in my head and then she just starts singing it at the exact spot. And this is not like I know this is I don't know, circumstantial evidence or like I said this, but this happened all the time. And I'm sure that people will testify and say, yeah, me too. Me and my wife do the same thing. It's like I am sending her a signal through my brain and she's hearing it and picking it up. This is an ability that we do have. It's late and it's something that we don't use as much. But the fact remains that these kids, it's not a blessing. It's something that everybody has. They are just trapped in their bodies. They've been experimented on.
I understand the rationale. I'm just
there's one.
I'm just saying to what end.
All right. Well, I'm not sure to what end, and I can't speculate on that. I can only raise the bar that this is very strange.
We've got Elon Musk about to patent telekinesis. To what end? I'm not really sure where they're going to end with this, but it looks like they are studying this, and they were studying this in small scale, and now they're like, you know what? Fucking roll it out in the population, and we'll see how many kids we can get like this. And then I'm sure that they're watching these kids.
They got millions of them now. It's fucking tragic in that regard. I do want to defend float tanks as someone who's done.
Oh no, they're great.
Dozens of times. Look, I just want to make the point because oftentimes, people say, well, Rogan's bringing up. Actually, you have said this to me multiple times that Rogan's bringing up psychedelics and he's bringing up float tanks. It's like, I've done psychedelics, I've done float tanks, I've had really positive experiences from both of them. I think that Rogan has had the same, and therefore he's told his audience about it. I don't think it's anything necessarily nefarious. However, I do think that there is real arguments to be had that psychedelics, particularly the ayahuasca version, which I have never tried, could have really deleterious consequences for certain people that consume it. And honestly, with mushrooms too. I mean, if you're schizophrenic, like there's a real danger there. Same with marijuana. So broad advice to a broad audience, especially an audience of his size, can be dangerous, no doubt. But I just wanted to say, if anybody out there hasn't tried a float tank, like you don't have to get fucking baked out of your mind to go and do it. Like it is a very interesting experience. I think to be alone with your mind for, I think the longest one I ever did was 2 hours. It's, it is kind of psychedelic. It's very interesting.
I would just say that just so you have an idea of where I'm coming from, and this is really schizo shit, especially for dangerous. So if you guys want this, you come on over to NDS. But I look at this. There's two details about this that bolster this concern that I have. One is there has been a never-ending chain now of fucking white people going to the Amazon to drink ayahuasca. My concern is not with the self-exploration or anything like that, or maybe even the aspects of curing PTSD or anxiety and all the things that are allegedly going on with this. Mine is you reliably communicate with entities. This is something that they all say. You go to ayahuasca, you fucking communicate with Mother Ayahuasca. You do DMT, you see the elves, you see the jesters. I worry about the nature of what those entities are. I think they're very real. I don't find them to be a hallucination in any way, shape, or form. And I think they're very old, they're very ancient, and they're very deceitful. The other thing is, I think that to speak is a gift.
That's how participants even describe it. They talk about the machine elves and how they're these like playful little gremlins that
kind of assholes too. They'll give you the finger and shit.
But they'll also like lie to you and just very, very interesting.
Yeah, and the other thing is that I believe our ability to speak is a gift. I think it's prophecy, using the word. It's the same way that God used the word to create the universe. I think speaking out loud is very powerful, and I think one of the things that we have misconstrued is that every time somebody has an alien encounter, every time somebody has a spiritual encounter, every time somebody bumps into a fucking cryptid or something, Bigfoot spoke to me telepathically, the alien spoke to me telepathically, the demon spoke to me telepathically. I don't think it is a strength. I think it's a weakness. I think they cannot prophesy. They cannot use the word. They can't speak out loud.
Just to tie that together, I do think it's interesting that like this, when I was doing the show with Luke, this master, very famous, very high level hypnotist came in, and he's responsible for training Jake Paul's like mental, framework. Like that's
you had him in studio.
Yeah, we had him in studio. And he hypnotized me, and I just played along because we were on the show and I wanted to be a good sport about it. But like, I wasn't even fucking close to being hypnotized. Yeah. And like, it's just, I've always found, and I had another opportunity when I was in high school, like, right after graduation, we had this party in our auditorium, and they had a hypnotist come in, and I shit you not, like a bunch of people got on stage. I immediately was like, he tried to pick up my arm, it didn't drop, and he's like, all right, get off the fucking stage, you're not hypnotized. But my buddy Steve, I'll leave his last name out, he got so fucking hypnotized that this dude like got a boner and was like gyrating and shit because he told him that this girl was interested in him, and Steve was gone. Like, he wasn't even fucking there. And he was not acting. It was unbelievable. And I just think it's really interesting, like, who is conducive to hypnotism and who isn't. And I've never wanted to go down the path of like, oh, I'm so strong-minded I can't be hypnotized. Like, maybe I'm just fucking neurotic and that's why I can't be hypnotized. But I do think it's interesting how that ties together with like who's manipulatable through the media and who's not. And I think there might be a correlation there.
I think you and I and Top and a bunch of other people, we look at, like, it's like if they're telling you a story on legacy media about some big event, do you sit back and go, I fucking like bullshit? You're looking for the lie. You're searching your mind for like previous information that doesn't jive with this.
Are you cross-referencing with the existing database in your mind, or do you even have one? And I think most people don't have one.
If you're engaging in that cross-referencing and you're looking at things skeptically, I don't think you can, because as soon as you start telling me like, I'm going to count to 3 and you're going to be, by the time that phrase is done, I'm going, fuck you. No, I'm not. Like, I don't,
here's the weird thing though. Like when I was in high school, I basically was like not trying. I tried hard with this guy because everyone was saying he's so high level. He's helped people quit smoking and do this and do that, and they lose weight, and they, and fucking Jake Paul, he's beating up professional fighters. Like, maybe this guy's fucking the real deal. And I really wanted it to work, and it just fucking didn't work at all.
What's his name? Tyson's coach hypnotized him when he was a kid.
Oh God, his
Cosmata.
name.
I'm fucking saying. I had like
Customato.
Customato. I had a sound in my head, but I couldn't fucking enunciate it. Yeah, I think there is a big correlation between suggestibility or hypnotizability is kind of like, I fucking think it's the same thing, and whether or not you're gonna fall for the propaganda machine, So I just
Seems
to bring it back
to
that whole telepathy tapes thing. I know I like Rogan. I've been a fan of his since 2009. I was listening for so fucking long, and I could even attribute much of the improvements in my life to Joe Rogan.
Me too.
In fact, I probably wouldn't be sitting here in this chair in front of a camera if it wasn't for Joe Rogan.
Me too.
Got a soft spot for him. Love him a lot.
Me too.
But I look at that and I go, why the fuck is, like, John C. Lilly and the sensory deprivation tanks were huge. It was a huge breakthrough for the program. And obviously psychedelics are a huge component to it. And then just to take the telepathy tapes from relative obscurity to #1 in podcasting overnight, then it knocked him out of the #1 spot. And now I'm looking at the telepathy tapes as like potentially a mashup of, you know, the and the program, and I'm going, that's not fucking good. And then just to see the way that it's received, once again, where it's like, this may well be the next step in human evolution. I know these fucking kids are fucked.
It's an idea whose time has come. That's all that I see from the telepathy tapes. Now, whether Kai Dickens is aware and she's an active participant in creating this,
probably not.
Probably, who knows? Who really knows? But what I do know is that this is being presented to us in this time frame, in this period, for whatever reason. And
while this motherfucker's making a patent on telepathy for Neuralink.
It looks like again. So we've had where they're just drugging the Johns in the houses, and they're like, "Oh, we figured out what we needed, and we stopped it." No, we didn't. Then they did the fucking. Their 16 wasn't enough for us. They just got that were good on the internet that would do podcasts. So they're like, "Let's dial it up to 72," and now that seems to be like 64 to 72 seems to be that like really nice mark where they're getting what they want from us. Or they're getting the results that they want from these children because you have this population.
It's a super interesting theory. I mean, like it's interesting. I
don't have an endpoint for the theory.
There is no endpoint,
like,
but
that's fucking weird.
What it looks like to me is like the reason we're getting this information that the information that we're getting now is like, oh shit, telekinesis for autistic kids. Like, how cool is that? We're getting that because we're at the end of the experimentation. They've done their experiments. They figured out what they needed to know. We have our John C. Lilly float tanks. We have our kids communicating telepathically with their parents, and we're doing it on scale. They figured something out about the human condition, and now we're just all privy to it.
Well,
and
only pushback I'll give you. Well, it all deserves some pushback, but I will say the only pushback I'll give you is that to say that they're at the end, I don't totally disagree with. Like this is going to be if you're right, then there is a target in mind, and there's just no way that has been materialized fully at this point.
Well, maybe the target is everybody else. So like I said, they figured out how to recreate this condition because like you said, the float tank is great and DMT could be great, but when you're doing it and you're doing it in a certain way, and what you're finding in this other realm, that's the dangerous part. And it seems like
you're finding. You know what you're finding over and over again? You know what you're finding? I'm in communication with some sort of entity. They're very worried about the trajectory of the planet. They think that there's going to be a cataclysm of some sort that we have to avoid.
These motherfuckers said this shit. This is what I'm saying, Clint. These autistic kids were telling you that, I just want everybody to be accepting of us, and maybe we could have some more diversity. And they're using all these same words about, I just want to be heard and validated. And also the environment. And then I go, where have I heard that? Then I go and I type it up. Well, in the 1950s, Andrija Puharic was summoning an entity who was channeling the Nine. He was doing this with some fucking Indian mystic, Dr. Vinod. And this became a CIA program. This became a government program called Project Stargate, which is now we know Project Stargate. Again, this is why, like, are we in step 2? This is the part of the show, guys, where we get crazy. Yeah. So Andrija Puharic is summoning these entities that are telling him all these ecological things, and that we should not kill ourselves in a war, and also, maybe there might be too many humans on Earth, babies, shit like this.
Also, you gotta ascend. You're gonna ascend spiritually. You're gonna ascend. You're gonna take your place among the Galactic Federation of all these other entities.
Ascending is also a big theme in the telepathy tapes, but now we move into, and you know what? I'm putting these pieces together as we go, and we need to really do a definitive episode where we break it down and not just.
Somebody's gonna steal this from us. Somebody's gonna take this from us and try to espouse it as their own shit.
You better hit it this week.
Tomorrow.
Strike while the iron's hot. Well, hey, can we fucking please talk about the pyramids of Giza before we get out of here?
One second. I just got to, and we didn't talk about Kanye, but here we
talk about Kanye. I'm so excited about Kanye.
This goes into Project Stargate, where they're communicating with alien entities with Uri Geller, and this is also Andrija Puharic, who found Uri Geller in, guess where? Israel, Tel Aviv. No big surprise. So they're doing this. Project Stargate is, they were using it for some sort of remote viewing during the Cold War, but it was like, but really it was about we're communicating with aliens. Now we have Project Stargate that has $500 billion behind it under Donald Trump, and I have Elon Musk trying to patent the word, he's trying to patent the word telekinesis and telepathy with his Neuralink project under Project Stargate, which runs under this like AI thing. And we have this AI battle between Elon Musk and Sam Altman. We see that it's like a soft battle, but it's underneath, and we see what's going on. Elon is winning this battle, in my opinion. He has a better technology, and he's going to sweep up this funding to continue this Project Stargate Part 2, which is all it has to do with is it's all the same shit. They're channeling an entity, but now we're going to do it through AI. We're going to do it with autistic kids. It's going to be fucking weird. Where does it go, Clint? I don't know, but this is definitely where we're headed.
See, that's always what I'm asking myself at the end of it is, where does this go? And I think this is a good tie into the Giza topic, which I'm going to fucking talk about now because I've asked 3 times. So there's this new technology taken a couple years ago. That is there a clip that you want to play or no?
No. I'll go ahead, keep talking.
Okay.
It's just
all right. So it's basically a couple years ago they used this powerful ground penetrating radar, and they map this structure that's underneath the pyramids. And what they find is that there's these 8 pillars that go down vertically, something like 600 meters, which is an extraordinary distance to go directly into the sand of the desert. Like it fucking unbelievably bizarre. And then at the bottom of these piers, basically these posts that go straight down for fucking half a mile or whatever it is, then there's these, perfect picture to demonstrate what I'm talking about. And then at the bottom of it, there's these square blocks that they don't know what exists in them. Some people are theorizing that it could be the Museum of Atlantis or some shit, or the database of Atlantis. I don't know. There's been
the Akashic records.
Yeah, there's been stories about what may exist underneath the pyramids for the longest time. I've been reading all these threads to kind of catch myself up on it. But what's interesting is that the posts that go down have these spiraling structures that go all the way down them, all the way to the bottom, all the way to these bottom cubes at the end. And their belief is that perhaps those are actually pathways, like steps spiraling down this so you can get to the bottom. And I'm like, well, then send a motherfucker down there and tell me what's up, dude.
Right.
Like, it's so frustrating. But I just think, I mean, if this is true, if it's not bullshit, it's one of the greatest finds in human history and archaeology. It's amazing.
Oh, there you go. That's
well,
the
this
image.
is
Look at that shit.
That goes to Aleister Crowley. He went to the Great Pyramid. He was they said he was at the base or in the bottom of the Great Pyramid, and he summoned did he summon Aiwass there?
I think it was Aiwass that he summoned in the Great Pyramids. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is see what I mean? It's like we come from this weird spot where it's like this political, but then it reaches into esoteric and pop culture, and it's really all the same thing. That's why we take like this big overview.
The reason I wanted to connect it to the telepathy tapes is that, like, this is indicative of a technology that we can't even fathom. I mean, if you like, we've already spent hundreds of years trying to understand how this ancient civilization would create these pyramids, because these blocks are so extraordinary and they're so finely cut. And then to come to find out that there's in fact these posts that stretch, half a mile or whatever it is, straight into the fucking ground for no reason. Come on. And then at the bottom of them, there's these perfect cubes, and we don't even know what's in them at this point. And then you have all of the other like weird similarities, like the fact that they're aligning it with the stars, like
Orion's belt.
Yeah, and like why would you expend such immense capital, human capital, financial resources, everything else to create these monuments? To what? To what end? And how could you even do that given the rudimentary technology that we believe you had at that juncture? We're talking 6,000 years ago. This is fucking unbelievable. So I just think it's a absolutely interesting and fascinating story that I would have felt terrible if we didn't talk about.
It's
just cool.
As fuck. I would say that, whenever human beings start going deep into the earth, I think it's usually because they're anticipating something. That's kind of the
historically
idea.
That has been why. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Let me connect that final dot. The reason I wanted to connect it to the telepathy tapes is like, well, maybe it's because they had different abilities that we have lost as a consequence of our evolution or of a cataclysm, as some people say. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of people that speculate that the methodology they used to move those megalithic, blocks would have been a vibrational or a frequency-based one, because you can, in fact, vibrate something enough that something very heavy slides, rather easily across the floor.
And guess what? Those coils going up those posts, that's the type of thing that you would create that device potentially.
Right. So where my head is at when it comes to that is I've heard people describe the pyramids as actually a sort of ark, not an ark for people, but an ark for something, like in other words, a contingency plan, so that some fraction of humanity goes on after a major cataclysm. And I think that cataclysm, and I don't want to go too deep into this, but you can find Elon Musk talking about this, and he's speaking rather cryptically, but if you know, and you can put it together.
Gotta go to Mars.
He's afraid of, and that actually is why. He even says that's why.
Yeah,
He's afraid
he believes
of
that Mars is our arc.
Yeah, well, he believes that we're going to experience a polar shift. And basically what that would be is a disruption in Earth's magnetosphere, so that all of the sudden magnetic north and magnetic south become, disattached and whatever, and they become in a free-flowing state, and then they pop up somewhere else over the planet. And when that happens, we go through a litany of natural cataclysms, and that the only way to survive that, obviously, would be like, I don't know, maybe making a deep underground military base and filling it with all kinds of goods so that the elite can survive.
Most people believe that shift is like due to happen in the next 50 or so years, which makes it even more interesting that Elon is functioning with this premise that like we're going to have, he says it almost every day
polar
now.
Shift. In the video that I watched, he used the phrase polar shift.
Okay. Well, but what I'm saying is, even without referencing that, he's saying, I believe that we can have 1 million people living on Mars. I think he said like within 20 years is like the low realm. But like to say you're going to get 1 million motherfuckers 400 million miles away or however far Mars is from us in 20 years, like that's just an extraordinary claim. But if you're right that his functioning thesis is that we have no choice, we have to get off this planet, we have less than 50 years, well then yeah, you better get 1 million motherfuckers to Mars. So it does make sense.
This is actually a good point here. Once again, Atomic Shaman Sweat Lodge says the Egyptians knew of a pole shift or the return of Nibiru. So that's the conventional kind of Zecharia Sitchin studying of ancient Sumerian texts, and you come to this conclusion that they had a planet somewhere called Nibiru, and Nibiru was on an elliptical orbit. It's not a circle, it's an oval. So while we, orbit around the sun, something else orbits around the sun. But because it's an oval, it goes real far out to the edges of our perception. In fact, we can't perceive it because the sun is in the way. Now, I used to think that was kind of a compelling thing, and then I moved away from that. Recently, we talked to Crow777, who is an amateur.
I love this part of the show. I love.
What would
this
you call
part.
it? He's not an astrologer. Just like he bought a $10,000 telescope and spends a ridiculous amount of time.
Amateur astronomer.
There we go. Photographing the sun, and in really high definition detail, and he's got all these different pictures. But long story short, he detected a second like celestial body. He thinks is actually. It turns out now that scientists are pretty comfortable with the idea that most other star systems are binary, meaning they have two suns. He thinks that's the case with us too, and he says that we are rising in our spirituality, but also our perception and our intellect and our knowledge. We're ascending, right? There's that gay word again. And the reason that we're ascending, he even says, like, if, back in the fucking 40s, if you had this many skateboarding bulldogs, people would have fucking freaked out. But every day there's another skateboarding. He's like, everything is ascending. And it's because this extra celestial body is now entering our sphere of influence. And I think that if that's true, I mean, we looked at the pictures. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. There's clearly clearly a second thing. I don't know what that is. I'm not a fucking astrologer or astronomist or whatever. I don't have a telescope. We tried to get one for the kid once. I couldn't even figure out how to work it. I'm not saying that I know what that is. I'm just saying that this fucking guy spent a disproportionate amount of time learning about this, spent $10,000 on this telescope, and has now dedicated all of his time and resources to blowing the whistle on this. And I saw what he was trying to show us. So if that is happening, does that kind of like resurrect this idea in my mind? Like, oh shit, something could come back in our influence, and we could disrupt our magnetosphere, and we could go through a real shitstorm. And maybe the ancients had a better handle on that.
Yeah, well, that's definitely a possibility. I just wanted to add to your point about the pyramids being an arc. Even from kind of the rudimentary understanding that we have of what we can read from what they wrote, they described it as such, but they described it or at least our interpretation has been that it was an arc spiritually, that this is where you would put the bodies of your kings, Egyptian kings and queens, and that would allow for their body to ascend to the, whatever they believe in. So I just think it's very, if this is true, I just want to keep giving the the disclaimer that if,
caveat.
But if these fucking pillars are actually there, and if they stretch that far into the ground, and if you actually have these cubes at the bottom, and then you just add on to the fact that you have these unbelievably enormous structures that are put on top of it in a time where technologically it just seems like an impossibility. It gets to a threshold at which you have to acknowledge these people had technology we do not have now.
Right.
They were functioning on a different level. And like, I think it's really interesting too that you could be using, like, we don't have much technology other than like geothermal trapping, like how to use the earth as a source of energy. Yeah. It's like that device that we saw there strikes me as that. Like if you were going to find a way to harness the power of the planet itself, that's what it looks like to me. I just wanted to make that point because I think it's such an interesting story.
Again, not to go back to our boy Andrija Puharic, but one of his other developments was something called extremely low frequency waves, or ELF waves, and these are naturally occurring waves that are like 5 to 30 hertz, and they come from the earth. They come from the underneath the earth, and they were using this. Listen to this shit. They're using it obviously to see if they could fuck people up. So like think heart attack and things like that. And I think that they were successful. But what they found out is that they were also using for like mind control, like manipulate people's thoughts. And I think that there's something to that. Like, you know how Tripoli will say like, oh, you're like a low frequency gangster, shit like that. It's like, yeah, this has something to do with that. But they realized that it was manipulating the weather in a way that they didn't intend. And that's like the beginning of this HARP machine, or like the HARP technology that we have. This dude was on top of just about everything. It's unnerving and it's wild once you start to dig into that guy, and nobody talks about him. But hopefully after this, if this show is big enough, people will fucking start looking. Maybe somebody will steal my work and blow it up a little bit bigger.
Yeah, or you just be that guy. I mean, it's very interesting. I just love, despite the fact that I do kind of usually conclude into the more explainable, rational realm. I mean, this is just a story that you can't really do that with. Not with the knowledge base that most of us function off now. Like, it's just, there's no rational explanation as to how or why they would be doing that. And it really opens up. It opens up an entire new endeavor of like the human history, our experience on this planet, our technological capacity, perhaps our apex of technological capacity, and whether or not we're at that now or if that happened long ago. It's all so fascinating.
What it's gonna open up for, I think, you and a lot of other people, is you're gonna have to start looking into the myths. So the myths across cultures, the myths, the biblical myths, if you want to call them that, because once you start to look at the Bible, when you look at these other cultures that are explaining this phenomena back in the day, like a couple thousand years ago, some of this stuff makes sense, and you go, oh, okay, I could see why this
What they're
happened.
going to try to sell you, Clint, is these things are real and they created you. And I want to put this in
Billy
your mind
Carson shit
ahead of time. Is their gods were real. The Sumerians' gods were real. The Egyptians' gods were real. But the Bible tells us that a third of the angels fell. They rebelled against God and they were cast out. And they took their place amongst men and women as fucking, kings, emperors, lowercase g gods. So the only difference here is, like, they're going to say things and they're going to be amazing and they're fucking true. They didn't create us. They actually were casted out, and they're fucking tyrants, and they turn us into a slave race. They do all kinds of fucked up shit to us. They are women. They have offspring. I don't blame them for banging the women, but they are.
So your argument is that the pyramids would basically be demonic devices.
Not demonic.
No, not necessarily.
Demonic
I
is
thought
like
the fallen angels are is that no?
Fallen angels are, so the Bible kind of goes into detail. It talks about devils, demons, and unclean spirits. The demons would be their offspring who died, and then their souls don't really fucking go anywhere. They're just kind of trapped here behind a veil. The devils are them. They are lowercase g gods. They are the Greek pantheon. They are the Sumerian pantheon. And
okay, so you're saying, King Tut would be
King Tut. I probably was just actually he was probably like a Nephilim. He probably had some of that bloodline in order to be, but he's a mixture.
The correct term, beings. These guys would be Gibberim, created in like a scientific experiment, possibly what Neuralink will be getting at. It'll create humans that are more than human.
See, this is why I can only do this show with you guys once a week, because I'd lose my fucking mind otherwise.
I can't wait until like the progress of the show and we fully convert them. Look. I know we're coming up on time here. Can we talk about the Kanye thing, or do you guys want to fucking call it a day?
Can you do it in 2 minutes?
I took. Can I do it in 2 minutes?
I love that he took notes and we're just like, go ahead, hurry up.
So Kanye West has been doing his thing. He's back on the internet and he's freaking the fuck out. If you look at some of his tweets, he's basically.
I think he's doing fine. Sure, he has a giant necklace with a on it, and he's hanging
There's
out.
nothing wrong with that. That's
I
fine.
think he's doing fine.
That
Everybody
wasn't the
calm
part
down.
that I was going to say he's going crazy about. I mean, this necklace is kind of dope.
Just make it.
He is, everybody's basically saying he's spiraling, right? But if you really look at what the man is saying, he's saying a lot of like really alarming shit. Sure, he's talking about and that just goes back to what I'm saying before. It's like hip hop is all about murder, drugs, and women. But for some reason, once they talk about that's a stone's toss too far. That's too far for the general public. But among all of the tirades that he's going on, he's also talking about Kim Kardashian. And he's saying a bunch of things alluding to the idea that he hasn't seen his children in a really long time, and that he believes that Kim Kardashian is sexualizing them. And he's alluded to that in the past. He's alluded to his concerns about Kim Kardashian and his daughter and the way that she is going to be presented to people. And what he does recently, I'm just going to toss this up on the stage really quick, and then we can pull it right back down. But this is a video that he posted a screenshot from. It just says celebrity yachting. And if you look to the top there, hard to see, but he's got his eye emojis.
He also has 33 million followers. Very interesting.
Oh, that's fascinating. 33 million followers. So, that video, if you go and you watch it, is all about celebrity yachting, which sounds pretty innocent, right? It's not a big deal. But it starts to unravel, and you begin to realize that this is actually quite nefarious. So celebrity yachting is a common practice. It's just where somebody has a big fucking yacht. Let's say, for example, I have one here.
I've been on Tim Pool's.
What's that?
I went on Tim Pool's yacht. He rented it, though. He didn't.
Well, I don't know if Tim Pool has. All right, check this out. These are the yachts. We're talking a $50 million yacht named the Serene. The owner is a Saudi prince named Mohammed bin Salman, right? Or another yacht called the Eclipse. It's the second largest yacht in the fucking world, and it's worth $1.2 billion. These are the ones that get mentioned a lot, but there's all kinds of other yachts that are involved with this. And the MO is basically this. You have high-ranking elites in the world of Hollywood, mostly men. And then you have promising up-and-comers in the form of hot, right? And they come on, and of course, right, well, what a big surprise. The elites are hanging out with hot. Eventually, it gets into, and that video says it outright, human is the main concern here when it comes to yachting. And they go on to describe quite a bit of it. There's even an expression called yachting your way to stardom, right? Which is really funny. I just think it's fucking hilarious because when it comes to Harvey Weinstein, and he kind of took the bullet, obviously it's rampant within Hollywood, but he gets to be the mascot for evil in that particular case. And I go, he's just a fucking like a lower management kind of a guy, but fine. And so they start naming some of the names that are on there. And I think I figured out what the fuck he's trying to say. Cause he's talking about, concerns about Kim sexualizing his daughter. And then you find out that some of the people who have yachted their way to stardom, Paris Hilton, the Jenners, and the Kardashians. So we are talking about his wife and her family having been ushered up to stardom because of their yachting their way to it, right? And then within that video, there is a segment about Kris Jenner openly teaching her daughter Kylie the art of seduction and the art of pleasing men. So we have this big yacht situation, right?
She pimps out her daughter.
She pimps out her fucking daughter. And what he's worried about is Kim Kardashian
doing that to his child.
Exactly that.
Yep.
And, of course, in the more nefarious aspect of yachting your way to stardom, we get human where it doesn't just stop at banging these. And like they're going through all these Instagram reels of like you see women who just seemingly every day are on yachts. And they're not famous, but they have millions of followers and all of their pictures are so they're like these people are on these fucking yachts taking these photos. You'll see them on the red carpet a couple of years from now, but right now they're Instagram famous and their entire life is on a yacht, despite the fact that they don't have a fucking job. They don't have a job. They're just a hot influencer. It's because they're getting by fucking Saudi princes with $500,000 or $500 million yachts. And all the while this is happening, people are being trafficked around them. So the key to the Jenner success then is this fucking like sex kitten thing where this lady's going around and teaching her daughters how to please men and how to become desirable. So the entire thing is based off this motherfucker had a daughter, had children with a professional, I mean like the highest level of professional whore that you could probably find. Huge mistake, massive mistake.
Well, Kris Jenner is the most successful madame in history.
Yes.
She pimped her entire family out, all of her daughters, and turned it into $1 billion enterprise. Think about how incredible that is.
Yeah. I mean, like one of the biggest, and then of course, what happens to Kim Kardashian? It all fucking blows up just after that sex tape. So, I mean, obviously, a massive tone deaf move on Kanye's behalf, right? Why would you ever wife that? I have my suspicions, of course, because I'm a schizophrenic, that I think she's a high-ranking witch, an actual witch, like in a fucking coven. I think they all are. But we don't have to go that far. We can just go to who the fuck teaches their daughter how to sexually please men, as like that's her MO. This is the thing that you need to find success. And then you look at like I said, Paris Hilton, right? They were really talking about Paris Hilton and the Jenners, but Kim Kardashian follows Paris Hilton's MO, right? One night in Paris, and then all of a sudden Kim Kardashian goes, okay, that sex tape really worked well for you. It's time to get my wet. And then the next thing you know, she's launched into superstardom. So, I mean, obviously these people have some modicum of success before that, but to become the cultural icons that they have become.
Kim Kardashian had basically no success before that Ray J tape.
Didn't she can, well, in the sense that she comes from money. I'm not saying like
her dad was a lawyer of some type.
Yeah. The lawyer from fucking.
Well, yeah, her family had some success.
Right.
I'm just saying she had no real notoriety until that sex tape drops, and then it's like now she's the biggest fucking reality TV star in the world. Like
I've heard that she was off that Kris Jenner was off camera, like coaching, like nope, cut, start again, go, pull it back,
Dude,
pull it back.
Honestly,
I like what you did here.
Given how
don't
giant
like what you did there.
Given how giant Ray J's is, I can understand why she'd need her mom in the room to, give advice.
To wrangle it. They're a bunch of snake wranglers. That's it. At the end of the day, but we're looking at a guy.
Professional snake wranglers.
Professional snake wranglers, big black mambas. We're looking at a guy who everybody is constantly. I see what he does. He goes around with his wife's titties hanging out. I don't fucking like that. I have a soft spot for Kanye, not only because I'm a fan of his music, but when he made Jesus is Lord. I thought that was a great album, and it was refreshing to see somebody within the hip-hop industry, somebody that influential, praise Jesus in any meaningful way. And so it is a big disappointment to me that I see him walking around with his wife's gigantic fucking hangers out on at every possible opportunity. And it's also a bummer that that he's talking about open up a website. I recognize, though, that a lot of this is inflammation, because at the end of the day, what's going on here is they're telling you can't talk about the. And everybody knows that anecdotally within the music industry, they're a big pain in the ass. They kind of got you by the balls, and they decide whether or not you succeed or whether or not you drown. While he's talking about that, I think it makes a lot of sense where you're going up against people who say, you can't talk about this. If you talk about this, you're going to be fucked. And it kind of goes like, I'll talk about whatever I want. I will say whatever the fuck I want.
It goes, and
I
even
respect
deeper.
that.
It goes so much deeper. Think about this is why I appreciate Kanye so much and why people think I'm such a sycophant for him. But if you actually think about what he's doing, so he has concluded that the people are behind the manipulation of the music industry, pornography, basically all cultural decay. So what is he doing? He's like, I'm the most famous person in the world. I'm going to make my wife walk around naked, be sexually degenerate in public. I'm going to fucking start a site. Now when you condemn me, why aren't you condemning them? Right. See the point that he's making there? Yes. So, yes. I mean, it's fucking genius if it goes to that level, or if he's not just fucking losing his mind. But like that does make sense. It really does.
It's just like at what cost? At what cost is he doing these things? Like I agree with you, Clint, that it's a performance piece. But like I go far sometimes with things that I say, but I'm like, he's doing things that I don't know you can come back from.
He takes it real far.
Yeah,
but then there's also people theorizing, like I think his wife just left him. So, and there's a lot of people theorizing that he realized that she was some sort of op. Which, by the way, she's Australian, and in the JFK files, it came out that Australian intelligence also was involved in the JFK. So that's like, what the fuck?
Everybody.
Australia. You know what's really funny though? I do love that idea. Like if she was an op that was meant to attach to him and watch his moves and keep him under control, and he was like, walk outside naked. That's very funny to me, actually.
I also get it too. Like, why use your wife? It's like, it's not really my wife. This is just somebody that I keep around. This is someone that looks like Kim Kardashian. This is a prop.
It's so
I don't see it as like actual love. But
her body does look very similar. It's fascinating.
Yeah, she's stunning for sure. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's like really. I don't think there's really anything there. It's just a person.
I mean, look,
you know?
in Hollywood, they pass, from fucking one wife to the next very quickly. But the timing, like, it all just happened so fast, and this seemingly came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're married, and he loves her. But here, look at her tits. I mean, yeah, it kind of does feel like if you just look at what he did, it doesn't feel like she's his wife. It feels more like he's doing something with her. He's making a display of her. If she actually is a fucking, like, not a babysitter, there's a word, I forget what the word is, but if she's an agent of some sort, that is fucking hilarious. That's a hilarious thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's so obvious, especially if you followed Kanye his entire career, that he's obviously a creative genius, and that like when he started to wear that mask, by the way, he started wearing that full head mask when he was still performing and he wasn't really speaking out and saying wild shit. And then to do that, well, he starts to talk about then he goes on Alex Jones and and he has the net and the Yahoo, and like, this is a performance piece. Like, you don't have to agree with it, but it's just like, to me, it's so obvious that's what he's doing. He's trying to draw attention to something that he's passionate about. Whether you agree or disagree, he knows how to get your fucking attention better than like anybody on the planet.
Yes.
This
to me, it's just, go ahead, Top.
Yeah, Kanye was one of the. I think we should wrap it up in a sec, but Kanye was one of the reasons why I stopped listening to Part of the Problem, and it's nothing really to do with the stuff, but it was a test. It was this is a performance piece. He is delivering you a message, and you missed it because you got caught up on the thing that you're not supposed to get caught up on, which they did.
The same thing Timcast did.
Yeah, they got real. Well, I mean, like, whatever. I don't expect much from Timcast because I think Timcast got caught up in bullshit before, so they exposed themselves.
But,
he exposed
but
his hand earlier.
Dave's track record is that, like, I see through the bullshit.
The
And
more
you're saying,
consistent.
you're saying you missed the bullshit.
You missed it, and this was
or
a
you
big
fell
one.
for it. Yeah.
I don't know. I give him some leeway, and I'm like ambivalent towards him. I'll still see what he does and agree with most of what he says, but I'm like, that was a big one for you to miss. But he missed it because it was aimed at the people, and that's like his identity. And I think in order to be a real truthful mouthpiece in this realm here, and he's a very good mouthpiece, but you have to like disassociate yourself from your identity. Dissociative identity disorder.
Develop telekinesis.
You have to be able to take like whatever kind.
Oh,
can you see me? Okay. You have to be able to take whatever kind of preconceived notions that people have of you or you have of yourself and take that away and just say what you mean no matter what it is. And I felt like he failed there. But the bar is super high for Dave Smith. Like he's competing on this like really high level. So I'm looking at him with a lot of scrutiny and like, you can't fuck up. And I thought he dropped the ball on that aspect. Well, which is, I guess, is unfair for me to just be like, well, fuck you then. But I don't know. It's like, hey, dude, you gotta.
Well, that everybody has that choice to make. I mean, I had countless people abandon listening to me because I finally decided to support, or not even support, but just vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. It's like, all right, whatever, like you just have to. I think that if you try and maintain your audience, you're sure to lose them. Like, does that make sense?
Yes.
Like you have to be willing to just stand by your print. Like, even if I'm sure I still have lots of people that disagree with that decision that still listen to me because they respect the thought process with which I came to that conclusion, even if they concluded differently. But you just have to be honest with your audience and let that evolve naturally. And I think people will, they'll come back. Like, you don't have to worry about losing people.
I think we're being honest with our audience. 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we honestly cannot stop talking about the. We can't. It's going to come up next. Look forward to next episode number 7.
I feel like this was a very minimal episode.
It was. I don't know. I mean, I guess
compared
it
to
depends on
last
who you
week,
are.
Jesus Christ.
We opened up with the video and then closed with Dave Smith. So, I mean, front to back.
Kanye and Dave Smith. Yeah. I mean, really.
It's a Jewish sandwich. What's a sandwich called? There's probably a word for it.
A Reuben.
Yeah, it's a Reuben.
I think if you asked us, like, what was this episode about, we would kind of have to say that, wouldn't we?
No.
I won't.
I think it was. I thought. I don't even know how to describe it. We went fucking all over the place.
All right, guys, listen. Like and subscribe if you're here. And
yes,
I
please.
think we'll see you next week on all the stuff we do: Liberty Lockdown, Nephilim Death Squad, TLC, Tower Gang.
Yeah, quick plug.
TOPLOBSTA.com.
I had Tom Luongo on my show yesterday, and it's a very interesting conversation. If it's very high level finance for some of you, it may be like I don't want to fuck with this. But if you're interested in understanding like his thesis as to what Trump is doing in terms of like realigning the entire geopolitical financial system, it's a very interesting deep dive. I would recommend that one. We also had a very funny Mr. Fister Tower Gang last night. I would encourage you to check that out. It's insane. It's really one of the most insane episodes we've ever done. And then this show is just the most insane show I've ever done every single week, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And please do hit the like button, subscribe, share it with your friends, and spread the good word. Love you guys.
Also, don't forget NDS. We just had Isaac Weissep on of occult symbolism and pop culture, and it was a great episode. We talked a lot more about this idea of Rogan, what he's doing, Ian Carroll, and all these programs. So if you liked what we talked about here in regards to that, there's a much richer version over on NDS.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Peace out.